anything between 4-week long mesocycle and an 8-week long mesocycle, and that includes 1 week baked into each at the end for deloading, seems to be generally a good idea for muscle growth.
Nutrition is probably more important for the hypertrophy if I'm looking at the strength athlete, because if they go through that phase that they're supposed to go through that they don't go through, but then when they do go through, they don't go through it effectively, they should be eating enough to actually fuel and feed and grow the muscle.
So once you give people the habit of eating well, the meal structure of eating well, you go on and you give them the macros, specifically proteins, carbs, fats. Generally, the rule there is roughly 1 gram per pound of protein per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, 200 grams a day of protein.
The one piece of the stew I haven't figured out is how are you progressing the volume?
Oh boy.
I want to ask the question a little bit differently because I don't want people to think it's solely just the app, right? Because they can progress the volume themselves.
Yes.
So how do you look at progressing the volume through training?
Theoretically, and then
for hypertrophy.
Okay,
yes.
Theoretically, and then how the app does it,
yes,
and then how you can modify it.
Sure.
Okay, sweet. Let's see if I remember all that. So
what's going on, guys? We're back with another episode of Table Talk. Today, my guest is Mike Israetel. He's been on the podcast before. I do believe it's the podcast that we have the most views on. Is that correct? Yeah. It's like crazy. It's like 400,000 or something like that. So instead of going through your accolades and your background, I'm going to do something different. Years ago, I wrote, rank your powerlifting coach or rank your coach. So we're going to do it this way because this will be fun, right?
I walked into something.
Yeah, this will be fun. All right. So basically what I did, God, when was this? I don't even want to say how long ago. A long time ago.
Oh, come on.
It was, that can't be right.
Don't say it.
That's 2004. So it was, I was looking for a way, especially online, because there's so many, I guess now they're charlatans. We used to call them gurus and all this other kind of stuff, to help people vet coaches that would be helping them out, even from an educational source, because you can have somebody that's very highly educated, but they don't have the practical experience, and vice versa. And a lot of variance in between. So I put together a list of 8 questions, and you rank from 1 to 5 based upon the experience in each one. By the way, you're going to be at the top of all these, so it doesn't really
Oh, please,
and
no way.
Where the first one is, they should look at what the person's formal education is. So your formal education is Ph.D.
Maxed out, yeah.
Maxed out, like you can't go further. So Ph.D. in exercise physiology.
Sport physiology.
Sport physiology.
It's a distinction without a difference.
So periodization, essentially,
yes,
is what we discussed the last time. Yeah. And then the second question doesn't carry as much weight as the first, but still matters. And that's, who have you trained with? So over your duration of since you started training until now.
Well, a bunch of IFB pros recently. So
IFBB pros,
world record holding powerlifters and stuff like that. Professional MMA people, like jujitsu'd by those people.
Yeah. So again, fill in the top. So 5, right? So we got a 5 on the first one, a 5 on the second one. And I think this one, all these matter systemically or together, because that's what I'm trying to say, systemically, more so than the rest, because you can have somebody that has all the attributes, but learned under the best for 10 years, right? Doesn't mean that they're good, but it's a notch on the belt.
Sure.
Like, so if they trained with Boris Shiko for 10 years, that matters.
They must know something.
Yeah.
They might know something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
They knew enough to stay around
for
a long enough period of time. Who coached or mentored them? That falls more into like the powerlifting type thing. So, and with the bodybuilding, it would be a little different coaching. So who would you say were your mentors?
Well, in my field directly is Dr. Mike Stone.
Yeah.
And he is kind of the father of American sport science, and there's 200 plus formal peer-reviewed publications, was the head of physiology at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. I mean, accolades are just insane. So when I got to my PhD program, I was, I assumed I knew nothing, and I was correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 3 years, I knew, more. Yeah. And it is really cool though, to like Doc was, we call him Doc Stone. He was training partners with Bill Kazmaier for some time. And he did tell me a few stories that hopefully it's okay to share.
Mm-hmm.
Bill did deadlift over 1,000 several times with straps. But when he got to his strongest weight, body weight wise, his hand muscles got so big he couldn't grab a standard bar well enough to hold onto it at those poundages. So with straps, he could pull over 1,000.
Wow.
And I was told that story. I was like, whether I even have hand muscles?
Yeah.
What have I been doing my whole life?
Yeah.
Not being Bill Kazmaier is the direct answer.
And so he had mitts.
I mean, have you seen Bill Kazmaier?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I had this like really weird thing where I was speaking at, what's that conference we had here? Swiss.
Yes.
Last year. And I was answering questions for some folks after my talk. And Bill Kazmaier walks by and he looks at me. And I, of course, froze because it's Bill Kazmaier. And I was talking to two guys and I was like, do you guys know who that is? And they're like, no. And I was like, but that's God.
Mm-hmm.
That is the standard setter. Go talk to him. I instantly kicked them away from me. They cried, but then they went and talked to Bill. I'm kidding. That last part's not true, but it was wild to see him.
Two things to bounce off of that is you're going to speak again at Swiss, and I did make a note. I need to promote Swiss. So the Swiss is in the description, October 21st. Mike's going to be speaking. We have other speakers. If you click through there, we have pre-launch registration going on right now, which you can save. Interesting story. 39% on that, not 40, 39%. Just how the math worked out. So I said, screw it. I'm going to leave it because it looks different. We'll see what happens. Sure. So you're going to save 39% on that. The, I don't know if I want to say this. When the last week I was out of town, so I was training at a different gym, and maybe the guys listen to the podcast or not. So I get recognized. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Probably most of the time I don't, which is actually a good thing because you just want to go train, lead. And so I'm talking to this guy and he ends up, he's very, very accomplished power lifter. So he's got his buddies with him and he's introducing me to his buddies. They don't know who I am, which is cool. That's fine.
You know, no, it's not, Dave. You better tell him.
It's even way, well, he was, right? Okay. And so then he was talking about how it's important, you know, to your point with those other guys, that they know the history of the sport. And I pushed back on him and said, it's important. Yeah. But what's even more important is you to continue to keep getting better and to push your own path. And then the guy looked at me, he was dead serious. He wasn't fucking with me at all. You know, so this is not a rip on him, but he said, it's important to recognize and respect your elders. And I thought for a minute, elders, fuck. You know, then it was like a mind fuck. And I'm like, it was a respectful, it was a compliment. Yeah. But it hit me a little weird.
You're driving home later and you just have that like concussed grenade sound.
It's like, yes, I come home and I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I think I was just called an elder.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, to get off of that, we got a 5 there from the mentoring thing. Then what have you done in sport? So it's very general here. So it could be bodybuilding, it could be powerlifting. Right now you're training for a show.
Yeah.
Which is,
I'd give myself a 3 or a 4 on that one.
Well, what level though?
Yeah. So in powerlifting, I was like, okay, drug-free lifter.
Yeah.
At a time when almost no one lifted raw or drug-free. So competition was not impressive and nor was I. Then in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I have pretty good competitive record, but you know, like I was and am juiced up, so I don't compete in the most prestigious federation, which is drug tested. That doesn't stop most of the people in there from using drugs, but I don't cheat on principle. So I'm like, So I do some local and other federations. I've done quite well. I'm a pretty formidable jiu-jitsu competitor, given that, you know, my limitations of being a short king and stuff like that. I'm kidding. Do you know that vernacular yet? Yeah.
I don't know that one, so you're going to have to explain that one.
So I think short people have like inferiority complex, so they call themselves short kings now.
Short kings.
To make sure that, you know, like, well, you're still a king.
Okay,
so
I get it.
You know, facetious. So I'm okay at jiu-jitsu. And then last year, so I used to suck at bodybuilding, and then I finally figured out how to peak. And last year, I took second in the super heavyweights at Masters USA's out of a class of like 8 or 9 people. And I was the leanest guy in the supers by a long shot, it seemed. So it was pretty cool. I was like, okay, like, I'm a nationally competitive bodybuilder. which is kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll give you 4.5.
Oh, please.
All right, 4. It's 4. 4. I don't want to get into the points because it's too hard to do the math.
You start adding up. I don't know, man. You're a fine coach.
AI still isn't good at math either, so I can't use that. Have you made it? So this will play in this next one. These two kind of tie together. Have you coached or trained anybody to a level better than the level that you've achieved?
Oh yeah, almost everyone's better than me. Yeah, that's easy. It's like if you can't do one, the other one's going to be higher.
And then how many years competing in strength sports? So when you started that powerlifting, 20, 2 decades. So I have a note here that over 15 years is a 5.
Oh, hell yeah.
5.
You just got to hang around long enough.
Exactly. It's for this thing. Longevity matters.
Turn into an elder. I'm kidding.
Yes.
I had to plug you on that one.
An elder. So how many years of serious training? That's also over 15 becomes a 5.
Yep.
How many years coaching and helping others?
20.
So that's a 5 because over 15 years is a 5 there. And then that gets 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 39. Where when you go to if you suck or not, you don't suck. Score 35 and over is a great coach.
All right.
Right? Yeah, there you go. And then if you guys want to find this, you can just search rank your powerlifting coach or Dave Tate rank your coach.
This is really cool.
But there is some shortcomings with that, with this whole thing where Mike to share years ago, he tried to use this to find, I think it was a Brazilian jitsu coach.
Mm-hmm.
So he tried to use that. And then he used it and he found somebody that had all the high marks, but then they sucked.
Yeah.
Because they weren't good at coaching beginners.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a different skill set.
They might not, I don't know Mike to share a story with this, but is it okay if I expand
on sure.
that? So they might not have been good at coaching at all.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that probably the most important requirement, as far as I can tell from coaching, is are you mentally and emotionally immersed in the process and value of helping other people become their best? Like maximum giving a shit as to how your athletes do. A kind of giving a shit that does at least 2 things for you. 1, it makes you stay up at odd hours and use lots of your free time to try to learn and improve your coaching skills through whatever methods possible. And I could just go back and read a ton of elite articles, and that's well on my way. The other is, do you come to your athletes with the ethos of, I'm going to empower you to do your very best, and I really give a shit about how well you do. And if you give me sweat and blood and determination, I will give you everything in return back to be your best facilitator possible. Those 2 things, that sort of tireless search for knowledge and that desire to help the athlete. There's a few others I can think of that make a great coach, like iterating on the process and trying to improve and saying, how can I be wrong? What am I missing here? How can I systematize this problem a bit better? How can I understand the universe of coaching a bit better? Those qualities are so important that you can have coaches that don't have half those accolades, and they coach anyone else under the table because as the client experiences it, they're the fucking best coach in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need any degrees. You barely need to know how to read. You just have to make sure. I'm joking. Hopefully you can read well enough to get in articles and stuff. But it's really a lot of coaches who have all those accolades. They've done really well for themselves. And because they did well for themselves, other people who are good came to them for coaching. So now they can mark off some of those like, well, I've coached pros and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they really don't care much about coaching. It's not something that deeply infuses sort of their every fiber of their being. And then they'll never get as good as someone else who really gives a shit. I say giving a shit about something in a true deep way, not like nominally. I mean, just like you give some of your time and effort to it. It beats almost everything. Because while someone else could have accolades and all these degrees, they never spent the deep learning part, deep thought in how can I coach better? How can I get people stronger? It really vexes your brain to do. Do you ever have a lifter, Dave, where you're like, just can't figure out this asshole's deadlift? Fuck, I've coached so many people. I've boosted everyone's deadlift. Fuck is wrong with this alligator arm motherfucker?
Oh yeah.
Damn it. Is it more deficits? Is it a grip problem? Is it a technique problem? Is it a mentality problem?
Is it a messenger problem?
100%. Yeah. Maybe you're not giving the right cues the right ways. And if you vex your mind enough on these kinds of things, 2 things happen, probabilistically. 1, they're more likely to get their deadlift PR from you. 2, the skill set that you're building kind of like the GPTs, large language models right now, they pile through massive amounts of data and develop a really deep intuition about what things are. Humans are all large language models. That's what we do. If you really try and solve client problems and you get into hard, difficult problems that you can't solve, and you really try to just grind through it, really take a different approach, really think about it before you go to sleep, dream about the shit, wake up, repeat. You will start to develop a coaching wisdom that is, man, it's just real difficult to beat. You don't need degrees or any of that shit. Now, this is me discrediting myself because I ain't got none of that, and I got all those fucking degrees and accolades. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, a lot of the folks listening to this may be like, man, fuck, I had to win the world championships to get a fucking PhD for this shit. Like, you don't. You just have to read a crap load of articles online, watch a bunch of videos, bunch of podcasts, train yourself as hard as you've ever trained anyone, because you have to be the canary in the coal mine for this shit by yourself. And then when you apply your craft to the people that come to you to get better, you apply it with diligence and with just a passion to get people better. And if you do that for enough time, well, the data science problem takes care of itself. Your brain learns over time, and you'll develop an unreal skill set for how to really coach the living fuck out of somebody.
No, I think what you just summarized there is key. This was written 2 decades ago, before the
and it's valid in its own right.
And it is.
Because you can't intuit that. That is something you can look up about a coach.
Well, yeah, this
then
gives
you go to the coach.
Yeah,
and also, you see if he breaks the barriers and other things. How do you Google someone to be like, hey, does, coach this and that guy, like, bring a dedication to his clients that surmount, like, what the fuck? That's not something you Google. That's not something ChatGPT can tell you. Unfortunately or fortunately, you have to interact with a human being to find that out. Now, nowadays with Reddit and reviews of people, you'll get some semblance of a guy, but also it's difficult because, like, a few people could have a problem with you and now you're evil on the internet.
Yeah.
Or a few hundred people think you're amazing but never really deeply interacted with you, and they're like, this guy's the best coach, bro. You're like, do you really know that?
Yes.
Could be, could not be. I will say, over time, people will say, they'll trend towards, this guy's a real good coach, real good. Everyone says it, then it's probably more likely to be true. But nonetheless, never can tell.
Yeah, and this was done before online training really became a thing. So it was a vetting mechanism, as you were saying, like, here's your first phase of vetting, 100%. Where now, I think that skill that you're touching on, just say problem solving, right? Which isn't always going to happen because most people are pretty cut and dry, with what they're doing. But when it does happen, the coach has to be able to pull on those things, because all the other things are going to be automated. And already a lot are. I mean, your app for hypertrophy is doing a lot, which we'll get into that. But a lot are. But when you run into the speed bump, I think that's where the future of the actual coach becomes, is that, not so much this, shuttling back and forth of emails or text messages or whatnot, but a consultant, as you would have for an attorney or HR, whatever it's going to be, somebody that you're going to call to help go over that speed bump, because all the other things are going to kind of be automated.
100%.
There's
the numbers are pretty easy to automate. In the RP Hypertrophy app, we've even automated most of the autoregulation. Like, if I did this weight, this many reps, this many sets this week, what do I do next week? That's all taken care of. This machine logic is not that difficult. The nuance, the psychological stuff, the personal stuff, what is my grand goal? What should I be doing now stuff? That stuff an app can't quite handle yet. In the future, apps will handle, I think, almost everything. What a great time that will be, because essentially everyone can get expert coaching for, $20 a month or whatever. But right now, coaches have this area where they can be human and personable. And, an app can tell you, hey, do these numbers. But if you're feeling down that day, an app isn't likely to message you in a very believable way, even if it's AI. And it's like, hey, do your best. Like, okay, but if I don't, what are you going to do? Nothing. But a coach is a human being. We have a coach at RP, Dr. Jen Case. She's won worlds a bunch in jiu-jitsu. She's a total freak. Like, just will beat you up, hands down. Her clients are, like, scared of her, I think. Not in a bad way, but in the way of, like, when Dr. Jen says, I got to do these macros this week to lift these weights, I'm going to do it. Because she's a hard-nosed person and she expects me to have results. There's a human being back there somewhere who gives a shit whether or not I do the plan, who I'm a little bit intimidated by. That's a big part of coaching. of that human element, not just the intimidation factor, but like, hey, I don't feel motivated today. What do I do? Oh, geez, if I'm coaching, I got all sorts of shit to tell you. Anywhere from sarcasm all the way up through real, come to Jesus kind of talks. An app may at some point be able to do that. Will it be able to do it convincingly? Maybe. Will it be able to do it convincingly and also have that moral element to it? Where like, if you don't try and your coach knows you didn't try, it's not a matter of just like, oh, hey, no big deal. We'll try it again. Coach gives you that look and you're like, you throw up your hands after the deadlift. So you got a third one. You're like, he's judging you. You may even deny. You still know. So next time you hit that set, you might not do that thing. Any kind of digital assistant, let's see, even in a super intelligent digital assistant, somebody who is an aggregate of all of the YouTube experts ever in one coach, that's very hypothetically feasible within 3 or 4 years. He might know everything. He might even be able to tell you incisive psychological shit right on the spot. But you could be like, yeah, say hi. What the fuck is he going to do to me? Get in a robot body and beat me up? And then he does, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. That's
I better do these deadlifts.
Another conversation.
That's it.
Today's episode is brought to you by Element, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With Element, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drink 1 pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, Element is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single-serving packages free with any Element order. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend and Element will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinkelement.com/Table Talk. Let's stay on hypertrophy because I've used the app for, I have one mesocycle for 5 weeks and the next one starts today. So Amazing. It's a custom thing. And it's funny because he just connected us today. I sent a text message right back to your partner, Nick. And it's funny because he's asking what the experience was. I'm like, most of it's been user error. Mike's taking care of that.
It's just all user error.
It's just user error.
Training yesterday.
There's one thing, but just the user error. But the other things I said, we'll talk about because it's a hypertrophy app, which I think I can take this direction in a way that we can actually speak about the process of hypertrophy in its own phase. Sure. Because it's not a strength phase. It's not a peaking powerlifting app. This is a hypertrophy app.
Correct.
And so for those phases, from what I've seen, I think I've kind of cracked a little bit of the code, but I don't know because it's only been 4 weeks. There's only so much that you can crack with that.
Sure.
Where it's using RIR.
It's very tough to say.
Yeah, it's very tough. And so once I put my shit in there, right? So we'll talk about what shit should be put in there because it was a custom thing and you have options that are not that. Then the first week was, I believe, 4 RIR or 2 RIR. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, look, this is setting a base. Yep. It's going to see where I fall weight-wise. As long as I'm not an idiot and I stick to whatever those RIRs are. And usually I've been kind of critical of those. Like, this is stupid. Until I've actually had to do it. And I know this is probably 4. Okay. So how do you know 4, 3, 2? Because I could hit ammonia, get psyched up. And if the whole training is going to be not hitting ammonia and not getting psyched up, then it's going to be consistent for whatever time period it is.
Totally.
And so then over the period of the 4 weeks, when I didn't have to change a movement or delete a movement or so forth, there's small weight increases, sometimes annoying because it's like 2.5 pounds on a fucking machine. I'm like, I'm not grabbing the magnets. I'm just going to go up 10, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other cool, this is what I really like about it. And while I'll still continue using it, even when I put strength shit in, it's going to be another layer to be able to put through there.
Okay.
Is the joint pain is being measured.
Yeah.
And I think that's impacting the volume and the weight jumps because if I put like crazy joint pain, then it's not doing certain things that the other exercises are doing from the progression. Now, I know you built it. So it was like your brain into this app. So that's valuable for me. And we'll talk later how aging gets in there, because sometimes I got to be very cautious of that. The pump thing, whatever, I'm not really into this pump thing, but it's a gauge. I understand it's a gauge. Like, it's definitely a gauge that has application, where we'll talk a little bit more on why, it has that application. And then was it hard? It was like easy, hard, kind of hard, work your ass off, whatever it is. Workload. So it's calculating effort to be able to move that forward. Yes. And at first I'm like, I don't use those things. But then you realize I do. We all do. Yeah. It's just not as formalized as what that is. Yeah. Some of the things I had to hack a little bit would be, I'll have longer waves. I think I messaged you about it, where if I want to run an exercise for 4 weeks, sometimes sometimes I'm going to peter out before the 4 weeks. Yeah. So I started a slower tempo. Sure. And then as 2 weeks of a shorter tempo, then I can go like a normal tempo. Yeah. I can get more time out of it because I'm just using a controlled tempo. Sure. I just make a note. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it was like,
it's got a notes feature.
It's got a note, so that was the thing. Like, how am I going to know what tempo? Yeah. I'm like, just make the note. There it goes there. And then what I didn't like, but I see why it's there. Like week 4 was like do 4 reps or what. It was like super light.
Deload.
It's like a deload. I'm like,
nobody likes the deload.
Fucking hate.
By the way, just in case anyone gets scared off, there's a feature in the app where we just say like, complete all of the rest of my mesocycle for me. It finishes it. You can just do your own thing for deload or do nothing at all. Do you recommend you take some rest?
Here's what I did, right? Because we can talk about, God, there's so many things to talk about. Because I didn't feel like I needed that with what I was doing, because I didn't have any real hard exercises that beat me too bad. Okay. Right. Most of it was just machine shit that I can recover from a little bit better. Okay. There were things I can recover from better because the volume was going to be way higher than what I've done previously. So if I'm going to take my volume sets times reps times 5, I'm not doing fucking heavy barbell rows. Right. I'm not doing heavy dumbbell rows. I'm going to do other stuff like that. So when that week came, I just changed movements to make them even easier movements than what I was doing. Okay. So instead of the seated chest press machine, with handles, it was the cable, like standing chest press cable. Okay. So it's, you can only go, what I'm saying? It's a deload in itself just because the exercise for me is easier to recover from, which is one of the things that, God, I don't even know where to start. Like, so let's back up and let's start with, for those that are building a hypertrophy phase, right? What do you think the optimal time duration of that phase would be?
It's a good question. So, technically speaking, anything between 4-week-long mesocycle and an 8-week-long mesocycle, and that includes 1 week baked into each at the end for deloading, seems to be generally a good idea for muscle growth. If you train for much longer than about 3 weeks hard before taking a deload, let's say you do what's called a 2-to-1 paradigm, 2 weeks of accumulation, 1 week of deload. There's a gentleman you had signed to your to Elite back in the day. What was his name? Chad Ikes, maybe? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I remember following his blog for a while, and he was going through a rough time. So it just seemed like he was deloading every 2 or 3 weeks for like a year straight. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Mm-hmm. So he'd probably be the first person to tell you quality training time needs to accumulate for some weeks. Because if you think about it, accumulation of 2 weeks, deload of 1, if you assume you don't make a lot of progressions on your deload week, you really spend 2/3 of the year getting better and a whole third of the year not getting better. Mm-hmm. Training is better when it's stacked up over multiple weeks, because then you have a lot of chronic exposure to the stimulus, more opportunity to get gains. That's great. So 3 weeks up, 1 down, great. 4 weeks up, 1 down, great. 5 up, 1 down, great. As you get much beyond 6 weeks, especially if you are training properly, training very hard, appropriately hard, as you get stronger and bigger over time, the problem that you run into is that the fatigue level you're experiencing starts to accumulate exponentially, and the stimulus starts to peter off. And then you end up in weeks 7 and 8, 9, if you're still training, you end up kind of biochemically spinning your wheels. You're sending a lot of anabolic signaling to the muscles, but the concomitant catabolic signaling is at this point so high due to high fatigue at a chemical level that you don't grow much muscle. What a tragedy to spend 2 of the hardest training weeks of your last year growing essentially no muscle at all on that balance. So there is such a thing as too short of a time scale in training. 2 weeks, geez, you can do better than that. Accumulation is a good thing. But much beyond, for many people, 6 weeks starts to be too much accumulated fatigue that you're dealing with. It's like this concept of a kind of Goldilocks zone of time applies to almost everything else. You know, if you were to say, how am I allowed to say like
whatever
adult shit?
Yeah, yeah.
This is a family podcast.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, like, you know, here's the most beautiful woman that you've ever wanted. Thanks, AI. How long are you going to have sex with her in one stretch? All right, pills, let's do it. 3 minutes. Be like, bro, I'm saying they used to call me Minuteman in high school, but that was for unrelated reasons. JK, 3 minutes is not long enough. I want more lovemaking. Fine, someone's like, aliens are studying you. And they're like, more lovemaking, crank the meter. 19 hours of just this shit. Bro, we've all been adults. We've had fun. 19 hours is too much fun. Nobody's having any fun at that point. So clearly there's a window for things like eating and sex and driving your car and having any time that's fun with your friends. Too short, too long, and somewhere in the middle is like kind of bell curve optimum. For serious hypertrophy training, for most people, our best estimate at RP is that tends to occur between 4 weeks mesocycle and 6 weeks mesocycle. Can some people get a good benefit training for 2 weeks harder than deloading one? Yeah, fuck yeah, they exist. Can some people get unbelievable results training 7 weeks accumulation and then just 1 week of deload? Yeah, absolutely. Beginners, people that aren't as strong, people taking it a little easy. But for most people, 4 to 6 weeks seems to be that Goldilocks zone sweet spot. Analogous in my experience would be like 4 hours of sex, because your boy's a killer in the set. 3.5 hours, I'm still in it. I'm just kidding. I've never actually had sex.
Oh yeah.
I've seen a lot of adult films about it.
Yeah.
They have a lot of sex.
Yeah.
So basically, is it possible to get more accumulation time? Yes. Now, my more skeptical co-designers of this app, Jared Feather, IFBB Pro, and James Hoffman, Dr. James Hoffman, recovery expert. If you told them, hey, I can go 7 weeks fucking hard in proper bodybuilding hypertrophy training and still accumulate more and still get better adaptations without fatigue crushing me, they're going to give you the squint. I'm not so good at the squint, but it's very intimidating. And they'll say, let's go back to what you're doing to see, are you training close enough to failure? Are you doing an appropriate amount of volume? Because listen, all of us can train for a year straight, no problem. You just do 1 set, 5 reps in reserve for every muscle group once a week, every week. The fuck? You'd actually shrink the entire time you did that. And sure shit, you can accumulate for a fucking year straight. It is that high quality training. So we have to add another variable into the mix. Not just, is it enough time to expose you to a good stimulus? That's factor 1. Factor 2, it's not so much time that you get so fatigued you can't even lift weights anymore effectively. The other question is, what is the quality of the stimulus? And is it enough time deloading to really reset your fatigue back down close to 0 so you can nut up and fucking hit it again? People will complain at the end of deload week, like, man, I fucking hate deload. I just want to fucking train. Good, motherfucker, good. That's how you're supposed to feel at the end of a deload week. If you finish a deload week and you're like, man, training, fuck that. You either psychologically are checked out. That's not I don't know. No expertise in that. Yeah. But go pick up another hobby. But you might just be too systemically, too physically fatigued still, and you need more time deloading. So all those factors thrown in there, assuming you're training properly, generally most people will have a very good time, close to optimum results, for 5 or 6 weeks. We intentionally did not allow the app to make shorter mesocycles or longer ones, mostly because there's a difference between creating some something of intellectual value for people to consume and building a product and selling it. One of the things that I'm learning about product design is I just want to empower people to be able to do anything they want and guide them along the way. I want the Infinity training app. It can do anything you want and just will guide you intelligently. You could.
Yeah, you can. Yep.
Except the people get there and there's like, okay, I'm going to do this. They pick a very wrong choice. And the app's like, no worries. We're just going to try to steer you in the right direction. And then it's going to be a painful experience for them because they've already said like, hey, like this is great. I'm going to do this. It's kind of like, all right, let's say you sign up for like a pickup artist class or some shit like that. Like I'm going to learn how to pick up chicks, except you like rub feces on your body and you show up with like a garbage truck driver's uniform and you're like, I'm ready. The guy in charge is going to be like, I'm going to try to get you laid here, bro, tonight. It is going to be a challenge. So if you give people a 2-week mesocycle option, they assume, hey, the experts built the app. They think this is a good thing. For some people, it is. For most people, it's not. It just doesn't occur in the app. 4, 5, and 6, that's all you get. If you want to modify the shit, you always can. You just do, let's say you want a 7-week mesocycle. You build out the 6-week one, and then at the end of one of your weeks, you rebuild the thing, which we're going to make easier in a few months. So basically copy your mesocycle over, refill the numbers, and just hit it again. That you have to hack it.
Yeah.
You have to hack it because we don't want folks who are coming in thinking, hey, this is an expert app. It's going to tell me what to do, and riding off the rails in a 9-week mesocycle, and elbow falls off and their shoulder breaks, and they're like, what the fuck? That's my
it's interesting that you say that, because the one scenario that I messaged him back today on was most of there's hacks, right, for certain things. There's one situation that there's really not a hack for, right? But it's a situation that isn't going to help the population or the demographic that's actually using this for the purpose of hypertrophy.
Okay.
It will help me for the stupid shit that I do, right? So it's essentially what I was messaging back and forth is, I don't think this is absolutely necessary, or I don't think this is necessary at all. It's probably counterproductive to the people that would be using this, where, to your point, when you're putting a product out to be able to produce XYZ result, you can't start throwing in all this other crap, which could potentially, or in my case, probably fuck that up, with the way it is. So basically what I was looking for was a way to override the progressions that are put in there. So if I train, and I do, if I train my squat on 3-week waves with different specialty bars. So say I'll use a safety squat bar, then I'll go Mars bar and spider bar, so forth. Okay. And they're trained kind of max effort-ish, 5s first week, 3s maybe the next week, singles on the 3rd.
Okay.
For myself, that is what I love to do. It's like the heavy singles on shit. Right. And to me, the heavier singles on squats are safer than doing reps, because I've done it my whole entire life. I'm tighter. I understand that position. I've never been hurt on a single. I've always been hurt on reps. Start breathing hard. You lose your focus. I'm not tight. Boom. Problem.
Shit. Okay.
Now, somebody that's essentially only done singles for 40 years.
Yeah.
I know, push this, don't.
Sure.
It's there, don't.
Sure.
So it's what I wave in there. So I would need to remove the progression to be able to allow different weights to be loaded on that day, because it's not all the same set. Yeah. Right.
Well, you can just click on the weight thing and just pick your new weight that you want instead.
Not for a second set.
It is now a feature.
Oh, it is now a feature. Yeah. Okay. So that would solve that, right?
It's solved. You go to the menu right in the exercise.
Yeah.
You hit duplicate exercise, and it just brings up a new set. You can have a couple sets of.
Oh, no. I do that. I'm saying under the same movement.
Same movement. That's what it does.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have to hit duplicate.
Correct. Yeah. We will eventually allow people to change the weights without hitting the duplicate function. We have to algorithmically restructure the app to do that, because it reads your progress and it assumes certain things.
But I don't know if that, to my point, I don't know if that is a good thing for the people that are going to be using this for hypertrophy.
Yeah.
Right. Because I can use that if I'm doing 8 sets of 3 of dynamic bench.
Yeah.
I just have close grip, medium grip, wide grip, boom, it's in there, 3 sets of each, move it through, fine.
Sure.
That works. There's a hack for that. But when you start allowing too much fuckery, then there becomes the problem.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
And that because when you put in the stuff that I do, that say this heavy stuff, it's still a heavy single or triple. It's a lot of load. It's a lot of systemic load for me to recover from, which means if you were to program this into said app, I'm sure we're on the same page, that thing comes first. You can't put 6 other accessory exercises on that day.
Yeah, you can if you want.
You can, but you might need to put one and see you later.
Right.
Because now it's become a strength app, not a hypertrophy app. So it's a different.
People were asking us about that, and I'm sure we are not trying to make a strength app. We are also our product development skills at RP are maturing enough to let us know that we can't make an app that does it all. Because that tends to go against the user experience.
100%.
It's like trying to make the best gym, period. Like, powerlifting gym, is it a strongman gym? Is it a gymnastics gym? Do you have cheerleading in there? Like, all of it. Like, okay, well, now you have like a lot of space and people have to walk really far for the equipment. They're like, but it should be a short walk too. It's like, that violates the laws of nature. At some point, you can't have it all. And another thing I learned in business quite recently is like, you have to find your demographic and niche down hard into it. So really solve the fuck out of a problem for a certain number of people. And if you get really good at that, maybe you can move out of the borderlands first. So what we're trying to do first is make a really, really good hypertrophy app. It's, I think, a very good one now. Eventually it'll be great. And then maybe we'll inch out, but there's other great apps. Chad Wesley Smith has the Juggernaut AI app. It's fucking great for strength, for powerlifting. People ask on like Instagram, like, hey, will you be making an app for powerlifting or strength? Like, no, Chad already did that. It's fucking awesome. And so it's totally cool to just be,
and I think it should be.
At this. Yeah, right? I in my heart, I still want it to be a strength and hypertrophy app. The problem is, that's a lot of, if you're able to juggle, there is surely an elegant way to juggle them. But because we spend time programming that in, we spend less time programming other features in to make the experience better for the core user. And our core user is anyone that wants to get jacked, period. If getting jacked is your number one goal, even if it's just for 5 weeks, come to us. The app it's got an electric shocker, goes right to your balls. No, wait, sorry, different app. Similar idea, to your muscles.
Well, with my pushback on, not really a pushback, but my thought on that would be the strength athletes that I know and have worked with and been around my whole entire life, when they come to their hypertrophy phase or off-season phase or whatever it is, they suck. They don't do it for shit.
Yeah.
You know, they don't train the movements as they should. I don't think they stay with the movement selection we'll talk about in a minute. I don't think they stay with the same movement long enough, you know, to be able to have a progression. They change the exercise every single time they go in the gym.
Agreed.
And they find a way to stick in, like I did, you know, a little bit of that strength stuff, but to the demise of the whole hypertrophy phase.
You're preaching to my choir right now.
Yeah. Well, it's fucking true. You know, people can argue all they want to. What they essentially do is like an 8-week deload, right? And then they come back and they're really not even better, and they didn't add any muscle. And it's, first off, I'm going to rant for a second. First off, if you're going to give a fucking 8 to 10 week off season to add muscle, do you understand how hard it is to add muscle? Then you're going to try to do it in fucking 8 to 10 weeks, and that's it out of the whole year. Yeah. You better have that on point.
Yeah.
You know, and have the nutrition to actually feed it. It's not like an off season, I'll go in and do 3 sets of 10, change the fucking movement around and just waste the whole period. And essentially, that's why I'm saying that's where fuck your app for a second, right?
Please.
Because you wrote a book on it as well, and you have tons of videos on it as well. Yeah, so all you've done is can put it into an app to be able to move that forward. They're not even doing that. Like, so if they're not going to like at least learn how to run a hypertrophy phase without it just being called the hypertrophy phase.
Yes, you know? The hypertrophy.
Then here's a way that can basically just do it for them to provide accountability. Just here it is, follow this, and put it out there. So go.
Oh man. So the off season, from what I understand, originally got its name from baseball, where they would have a season in pro baseball of competing, like in 1909 or whatever. Back when Babe Ruth was a thing or whatever. I know nerds, I'm getting the years wrong, stay calm. And baseball players, professional players, would actually just like not train not compete and literally just have an off season. They just would be off. Some of them literally sold like refrigerators door to door in their jobs. They sold insurance. I think Babe Ruth sold some kind. I think he sold insurance. And like once he got famous, selling insurance was really easy. Can you imagine like living legend knocks on your door and you're like, oh my God, yes, I'll buy whatever it is. So that kind of culture, at least we have some semblance of it. And at least it has a word with it that stuck off season. But the reality is, and you've been availed, of course, to like the Russian periodization literature, it's not called an off season. It's called sometimes some kind of preparatory phase, general preparatory, specific preparatory. And it's like preparatory, right? We're still getting ready for something. There's something at the end of this as I want a total. I want a fucking huge total. And even if I'm a powerlifter, I'm not a bodybuilder. I saw an amazing shirt at a powerlifting meet once. It said no calves, no curls, no crying. It's like, oh boy, that's all bodybuilding. So if you want to just total big, and you have come to realize that how muscular you are has something to do with your total, which is fucking obvious if you've ever seen a powerlifter meet. Like, mommy, why is that man winning? Because his quads are the size of everyone else's waist. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. If you want big muscles, what makes you think? What gives you the audacity to assume that that shit does not require the kind of rigor and effort and psychological fucking strain that you bring to your powerlifting blocks? And by the way, hypertrophy training is like powerlifting training, except it's little less weight on the bar, but more reps and sets. It hurts even more. Fuck that. That's hard. It's too hard for me to do, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to, instead of picking good mornings as my exercise of choice for fucking weeks and getting stronger on it, I'm just going to title that part in my little notebook hamstrings. You ever see like someone titles an exercise an entire body part, like calves? Like, motherfucker, what did you do for calves? Like, I don't know, just fucking whatever, calves. No, that's not how that shit works. You are going to use exercises you planned that were effective, that are difficult. You're going to start using a certain amount of weight on them for off-season powerlifting, sets of 5 to 10, and you are going to incrementally increase that weight over time, weeks and weeks. You're not going to like to do it. You're going to have 220 kilos on a squat bar, and you're going to have to do sets of fucking 8 with it. And you're like, dude, fuck this. Why did I sign up for this? Because you wanted the kind of big quads, not bodybuilder fake looking big quads that aren't that strong. You want the kind of big quads that transfer over to fucking powerlifting. And that means you will have to do sets of 8 on the fucking squat, and you will have to do sets of 8 on the hack squat after, super deep with a pause. And you're going to have to put a lot of plates on there, and you're going to throw up. Remember, currently Janae, formerly Matt Kroc. I'll just say Matt because was Matt back then?
Or Croc.
Fuck it. Oh my God. Janae, I love you. Don't fucking kill me, please. She's a fucking beast. So, Croc would do Croc training, tons of rows and squats and lunges with a fucking telephone pole and throw up all the time. And I remember powerlifters watching Croc train like that. And of course, a bunch of them were like, fuck yeah. And some of them you could see like eyes darting across the room like, dude, we don't have to do this to get that. Yeah, you fucking do. Remember Croc at a fucking singlet off at winning the fucking WPO? You're like, what is that? That's fucking enormous. Where do you think all that strength comes from? So some people in powerlifting, many people, have accepted a culture shift to where off season means arguably the hardest fucking training. Some people have not. Which side are you betting is going to get bigger and fucking stronger? So if you're serious about the shit, your training should be organized. Now, if you need a break, that's what active rest is for.
Yes.
Twice a year, as a good powerlifter, take 2 weeks and just fucking disappear. Go home, eat Doritos, play video games, talk shit, or go on a cross-country drive, finding yourself and your friends. And it's going to be a great movie on ABC TV. Whatever the fuck you do.
Hallmark,
the Hallmark channel. I was only recently veiled to the fact that there's an entire channel exclusively Hallmark movies. Whatever you have to do, then when you come back in to do your off-season training, to do your hypertrophy, come correct. Come to fucking work. Come to suffer. Come with an organized, structured plan. Just like you structure your shit in regular powerlifting training. No fuckery, no bullshit. No, I'm going to do this and that. The whole changing exercises all the fucking time. There are intelligent ways to structure exercise changes in several week or week-long bursts. Then there's like, need novelty because I'm a fucking child and I want to come in there and do something new. And I'm unwilling to challenge myself with, dare I say, the more boring progression. If you need to do some, can you imagine like Elon Musk shows up to work? Like, hey, Elon, thanks for showing up, buddy. We're working on this fucking big ass rocket that we've been working on for 2 years. And Elon's like, let's do something fun today. Let's do something else. Let's work on something else. Be like, what? But the rocket, don't we want to go to space? Nah. Nobody's not going to say that. He just starts another company and works on that in the time that he doesn't sleep, apparently, and still works on the fucking rocket. So a lot of times people will switch exercises a lot. In hypertrophy training, we have direct research to say that gets you less jacked over time, by the way. Sticking to a single exercise for at least a few weeks is better. Why do they do it? There's all sorts of reasons they make up. There's only one real reason. It's just bored, just fuckery, just wanted to do something different and fun. If you come into the gym to do different and fun things, listen, I love you. It's fucking great. Namaste. Let's hug. You're the fucking man. Don't plan on getting the best results. I remember I had a really, I'm not going to list the specifics of this, it's mildly offensive, but I've been involved with a few sports teams over my career. And some of the sports teams, they fucking work in training, and some of them don't. And one of the things I saw that really pissed me off, sort of taught me a life lesson, was there was an athlete crying after a game loss. And that athlete, some of the team was good. That athlete specifically just never tried hard in practice. If it took everything for me not to come up to her and be like, bitch, why are you crying? The fuck are you crying for? Where were you? What are you crying about? You deserve not even to be here. Thank God you got third place with your team. So if you care enough about winning and losing, about total PRing, about whatever it is you do in the gym, to cry about it if it doesn't go your way, you had better care enough to download the RP Hypertrophy app. How's that for fucking sales?
There you go.
And fuck, pay us money, goddammit. No, I'm just kidding. Get a fucking organized program together and run that shit. Because everything you see around you that is amazing was built to an organized effort. There's a camera right there, that camera right there, lens and everything so pristine, so precise, everything, all the machine components. Do you think someone just drafted that up like, fine, go. Some guy at Canon, good enough. No, they took fucking years. They planned everything out. So if you want to be a machine yourself, don't you think you should have some kind of logical structure to the shit?
Oh, I agree.
We're just ranting at each other.
No, it is. Just, I mean, it is. It's comforting in a way, right?
Two old men rant.
Well, I'm so many. You probably are too. I'm in so many conversations that contradict the shit that we're talking about.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like, oh fuck. Okay, do I even want to bother? Right? That's the first question. Like, do I even want to bother?
Sure.
Like, no, whatever. You're right. Okay, cool. Go.
Yeah.
And with the one thing with the app, which was kind of funny because it's going back to this exact thing, is the user error was big on my part because there's like 3 or 4 of the big ones. I guess I just found out when I started creating this meso that you can actually make a new exercise. And right. And I'm like, fuck. Okay,
that's on us. It's not visible enough in the app.
That's not a bad thing, though. That's not a bad thing because of what you just said.
Don't make your own exercises. Do these.
Well, that's what at first that's what I'm thinking, right? Because I'm like, okay, it's a hypertrophy app. It's just this population.
How can I fuck this up more?
Yeah, if they restrict the fucking movements that you can do, and they just keep the basic movements, and there's less variance, less variables for people to fuck up.
Sure.
Maybe they're doing this on purpose, right? Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. It's still a horizontal press, like or vertical press, whatever.
Yes.
Like, boom, make a note. This is what I did. I mean, I got a million things in here. I got a zillion variations, but still stay with the same one for the period of time.
Sure.
And so that was another one of those things like, okay, I get it. It's forcing people to actually do the things that they should do in this way. And then I'm like, then the other part of me was like, this can get really fucking crazy if you just let everybody make every movement, then it goes into a database.
Yeah. Here's the thing is, that is actually a thing. Mm-hmm. You can make any movement you want. You can train with using exclusively custom exercises. Is it going to be the best experience for you? There are some group of people for whom it will. For most people, just picking the shit you have at a gym. Another common question we get is, can I use this in my garage gym? Yeah. For every single fucking muscle group, there's a ton of exercises. Something surely you have at your garage gym, just a barbell squat, front squat, dumbbell, something or other with your, dumbbell, what's it called? Like split squat or some shit. You just pick all that and you can absolutely make it into a great garage program. Use the tools you have accessible to you to pick exercises that you like if you need to use exercises that don't exist yet, what we do with those is every time someone makes a custom exercise entry, it hits our database. It reverse hacks you. It strips your social security number, and we just all your bank accounts are fucking gone. But before that part, what it does is it sends it to us, and we have a continual stream of suggested exercises. What my colleague Jared and I are going to do, he's a pro bodybuilder. He looks like he lifts weights, and I just look like a fat guy. He also has a head of hair. You know, when did that leave?
I have no idea.
Us old kings, you know what I mean?
I don't know.
So
it was in the air. The plastics, right?
Yes, of course. I'm comfortable blaming the plastics. Not a lifetime of androgen abuse. That has nothing to do with it. So we take all the exercises and we'll find out which ones people really want the most, like the most votes for, essentially. And then we're going to probably twice a year go and film all of these with professional instruction so that they're included in the app over time. We started with a decent, we have 250 exercises in the app. It's not like few, but there's all kinds of variations of this and that. We're like, we're not sure how many people actually use these. Like, I get you right. If you're the only person requesting that we make it a custom exercise, we will not do it.
Well, it's still going to stay in their database.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It stays in your app for the rest of app time. But if we're going to film an official video about it and get it to go really as a real exercise, at least a few people are going to have to request it.
Yeah.
And there's tons of exercises we're going to end up putting in there. My thing is, it's going to hurt my soul when it's like, hey, single leg glute bridge hip thrusts for women in bikini shows is an exercise that appeared 190 times. Jared, you have to be the one that demo this. I'm not doing it.
Oh, I get, yeah. I'll put in some conjugate as fuck things.
God damn it.
Just ridiculous things to be able to throw out there. Just so you can see and be like, the fuck is this?
Band one hand.
Yeah, you'll know where
on the other hand.
Volumetric Health is a premium telehealth platform specializing in hormone optimization and preventative medicine. Are you looking to optimize your health in and out of the gym, improve recovery, sex drive, and quality of life? Have you tried speaking to your health professional about this and have gotten the cold shoulder, stereotyped, or just told it's part of getting older? Just go to americhealth.com/table talk. And you can create your own lab, or you can take labs that we've had set up for them, which are based upon the same labs that I've been doing over the last 15 years. Or you can use their guided optimization. With this, they'll put you in touch with a patient care coordinator, which is actually pretty cool because you get to sit down and speak to somebody that can understand what you're looking for from hormone optimization and the preventative medicine standpoint. After that conversation, they'll determine which labs that you should and which tests you should have done. And then from there, get the labs done. They'll review those labs with you and put you in touch with one of their hormone optimization specialists that can determine which supplementation that you should use over the counter or prescription. americhealth.com/table talk. The discount code is table talk. I understand how the weight progression is going and how the exercise selection is going. And we kind of talked on that. I think you have videos where you're laying this all out too on your own.
And they're still
channel.
coming out on
they're still coming out.
RP YouTube.
The one piece of the stew I haven't figured out is how are you progressing the volume?
Oh boy. Well, that's proprietary.
Yeah,
I can't tell you about
All right, so it's how you progressing the volume.
I'm kidding.
I know I know you're kidding, but I want to ask the question a little bit differently because I don't want people to think it's solely just the app, right? Because they can progress the volume themselves.
Yes.
You know, so how do you look at progressing the volume through training?
Theoretically, and then
for hypertrophy, yes.
Theoretically, and then how the app does it, and then how you can modify it.
Sure.
Okay, sweet. Let's see if I remember all that. So, oh damn, I look pretty jacked on this. What up?
There's a vein.
Hey, all right. And that's good enough.
Yeah.
Prep is over. So theoretically, there is a distinction between sets, weight, and reps. Weight and reps attend to the quality of the individual set. The analogy for weight is like the quality of a meat in cooking. The analogy for reps is the perfect amount of time that you cook that meat for. The analogy for sets is how much meat are you making? Because if someone's like, look, I'm training with just pure junk volume, like my weight's too light or too heavy, my reps are too high or too low, close to failure point. It's like, can I just do more sets to make up for it? Look, yeah, if you go to a restaurant and they give you a shit fucking meat that's cooked too long or too short, and it comes out shitty and you're eating and you're like, this sucks. Like, do you want extra for free? You're like, no, God damn it. I want it done right. And then I might order 2 steaks if it's really good. So to put it another way, when you're determining how much weight to put on the bar, how many reps you're going to do, how close to failure, essentially, you are determining the quality of each set. And your number one goal, sparing no expense, no trade-offs, is to make each set as high quality as possible. Sometimes that means one high-quality set is all you need. Like a real good high-quality one set of stiff-legged deadlifts or good mornings can actually fuck your hamstrings up for 3 or 4 days. That's it. You do one set, you're done. But more often than not, you're going to need more than one set. And then the next question is posed theoretically, how much more? Is it 10? Is it 5? Is it 3? And the answer is however much it takes to sort of check 2 boxes. One, was it a sufficiently robust stimulus to give you good adaptation? You're not going to get big legs doing one set a week of fucking legs. I don't care what the fuck Arthur Jones said or Casey Viator or whatever the fuck. It's going to be more than that. The second question is how much more. The answer to that is, can you still recover to hit it again when your planned session occurs? So for example, let's say I have bench on Monday, bench on Thursday, and I only bench for chest to keep it simple. If I do one set of bench on Monday, I will completely recover by the end of Tuesday. Wednesday, I will spend in a state of just sitting around, not getting better, probably not getting worse. Muscle hangs in for a while. Sure shit, not getting better. Thursday, I hit it again. Like, all right, great. The app will ask me, literally, the RP Hypertrophy app will be like, hey, like, how sore did you get last time you did this? You're going to be like, barely. And then next Monday, it's going to give you 2 sets instead of 1 because it wants to push you up until that point to where you just healed Wednesday night. You come in Thursday and you're like, okay, now it's time to rock and roll. Because that means you spent the maximum amount of time growing as much as possible, just healed on time to have another excellent workout, and then you're going. The delay should be minimum between when you're ready to go and when you hit it again. And there's 2 ways to fuck that up. One is training with too few sets. You healed days ago. It's fine, but you're sitting around not gaining muscle. Why would you be doing that? The other one is you do too many sets. And then like you come in to hit legs and you're like, I fucking can't walk still. The fuck am I doing here? And the answer is not much of anything productive. There's outside the scope of the discussion, I'm sure we get into it if you want, but there's a lot of people will say like, soreness doesn't matter for growth. That's the biggest hunk of bullshit I've ever tried to swallow in my life. And I've tried to swallow a lot of things in my life.
Oh, God.
Really just a few things of certain shapes.
Yeah.
That was a professional swallower, if you can believe it.
Yeah,
it's a truck stop job. I was never paid for it, by the way. It's volunteer work.
Yeah, it put you through college.
The truckers love it. Put something through me. I'm kidding. I'm done. I have to stop. Put me through something. Therapy. So soreness is at least going to prevent you, in most cases, as a trained athlete, from giving your best performance at the time. If you're still super fucked up and sore, you're not going to hit your fucking regular PRs. It would be better if you trained fewer sets. Monday, healed by Wednesday, versus Monday, healed by next Monday, and then Thursday, you're kind of like, what the fuck? And had a healed, high-quality workout on Thursday. So the way the app does it, which comports exactly with the theory, is if you do start with a certain number of sets, and the app always starts you low. One of the reasons it starts you low is because when you accumulate a lot of fatigue from too much soreness, it's stuff to clear off the plate. It's extra junk that's going to follow you the rest of your mesocycle. If it's not enough fatigue, you can always fucking get more. No worries. Mm-hmm. Another thing is we want to really, really instantiate and reward quality of training. So if you see that the app in the first week gave you 2 sets of shit, you're going to be like, well, I got to go fucking pretty hard and good technique and really get a lot of stimulus. Great. That's what we want, for these fucking sets to be good and hard so that you don't have to add junk volume sets. You only need to add sets if you really need to add them. And then after your first sessions get done of the first half week of training, roughly, the next half week and then the week after, the app asks you questions about, hey, like, how recovered are you? How sore are you? And if you answer like, the shit was really easy, on average, the algorithm is a little complicated. It's going to say, yeah, more sets next time. But if you're like, ooh, I'm recovering just right, it's not going to touch a fucking thing. You're going to have the exact same number of sets you did last week, which is oftentimes something that happens to a lot of people in training. Their last 2 or 3 weeks of training, their sets won't change much because they hit that sweet spot of like, ooh, 3 sets of rows. 4, I'm fucked. 2, not enough. 3 is perfect. And then if you go overboard, the app will be like, bro, like, you're still sore? You're like, yes. Next week, the 5 sets of leg press that got you sore will be 4 sets of leg press. Because it's like, 5 was too much, literally via your experience. So the good thing about the app is you don't have to hack the responses. You just tell it exactly how you're feeling, and it will fucking do all the under the hood magic that is exposed in the books that we have and then the YouTube videos, no secrets. And then it'll just be like, hey, like, you should do this much volume. Now, the last thing is the app is a computer system, and sometimes it gets things not exactly correct. And you can always, if you want, modulate the volume yourself. So all you do is just go to the exercise menu, which gives you all the tools. You can add plus set or minus set. Yeah. You can add as many fucking sets as you want or go down to 1 set. We don't care. And then once you do that, for next week, the app operates based on those sets. So it believes you when you tell it, no, it should be 5 sets. It doesn't say last time it was 3. This next time, it's going to be 3 again. I know you hit 5, but whatever. No. If it's 5 this time, it's like, okay, next time it's either going to be 4 or 6. Because it believes that your input is intelligent. That's another real quick thing. We design the app as our core user is an intelligent person who gives a shit about their results and knows a few things. They know how to fucking train. They want an organized system that just offloads that cognitive load of training more onto the computer, less on their brain, so they can go fucking hard, pay attention to technique, pay attention to motivation, pay attention to that one big ass bitch in the gym. You know what I'm saying? She's on that treadmill. Bitch, why are you on the treadmill? Get over here. Say what's up to your boy. But in any case, I want to do that shit instead of having to think of all the rote thinking of volume progression. Because, like, if you watch our videos, read our books, the shit is all just mathematics. Like, how many reps or sets should I add? How much of this should I do? It's all just math. Do you like to do math in the gym? I love math. I don't like to do it in the gym. The app can do it for me. Then I can focus on everything else. So when you modify things in the app, it goes, oh, you're the expert. It's not going to say, hey, you might not want to do that. The core user is someone who fucking knows shit. Like, is the app going to teach you anything about lifting? You've been lifting longer than the fucking iPhone has been a thing. No offense. That was meant as a compliment.
I almost said a relic, right? Not a relic.
It'd be funny if you were like, what's an iPhone?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah. But, we trust that our core user knows their shit, and then we'll check the app if it's off. And over time, the app learns to do that less.
Well, there's things that, because I've been lifting weights since before the iPhone, actually before a computer, not before an accessible computer in a home.
That's intense.
Yeah, so it's before that. I mean, the company started because my brother built a computer for me in '98, and it was the first time I ever had a computer. He put it together spare parts.
Your brother must be a smart motherfucker, because to build a computer back then, you needed to know shit.
Well, he worked IT for BF Goodrich or something like that, so he had a bunch of shit in there. And of course, I'm on there like, oh, computer, internet, dial-up.
Can it shock me with electricity?
Training. Like, oh, it was interesting.
You didn't type in adult films the first thing?
Well, of course I went there, right? But you had to download images. It wasn't videos. It was just all images.
And downloaded line by line?
Oh, forever, too. So, you wake up in the morning and you have like kind of like bots that would download the images for you and wake up in the morning and be like 400 new images. Like, wow, yeah, this is awesome. Hard drive's full. Computer doesn't work. Got to call my friend.
Virus.
Got to call a friend that knows how to fix this shit. Finds the hard drive's full of porn. And then there's...
real quick, I have to take on this tangent. This is... obviously, this story is going to be predictable. It's sometime in somewhere between 2005 and 2008, or 2005 and 2010, I forget when. I think it was in grad school, and I brought a laptop into Best Buy because it died.
Yeah.
Because, it was the blue screen of death. It was like a hard drive system, some nerd shit. I don't fucking understand.
Yeah, blue screen's bad.
Right. And so I'm like, smart enough to know that. Too stupid to fix it. So I went to Best Buy, and they were like, they're such nice guys, the Geek Squad or whatever. And I was like, they're going to you want us to try to get the hard drive data off as much as possible? And I was like, yes. And they're like, is it okay if we ask you what's on it? I was like, yes, absolutely, porn. And it's valuable to me, damn it. I spent hours looking for that shit. It's exactly what I like. Long story short, they couldn't fucking save it.
Dude. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay.
That's actually, thank God they came up with external hard drives.
Right? And then, my serious friends, I remember one of my buddies got like a terabyte drive. And I was like, what's on it? He's like, fuck, you think's on it? And I was like, you're the man.
Yeah.
I never went the external drive route. It never, streaming caught me. And
that is a whole nother level. Where I was going was, what what I've realized with the whole hypertrophy thing, because it's always been phases of my training my whole life.
Yep.
It's in a couple few year periods. It was the whole thing. A lot of this shit I take for granted. So even if I had a training log and I wrote down what this was, here's the sets, or I remember, here's the weight that I was using. The things that you're talking about is I remembered from last time, I barely had enough left, or I got way too fucking sore. So I down regulated, right? Where most people I know only up-regulate, they forget what happened.
Sure.
Right. So then they're burying their dick in the dirt, you know, so they can't stretch a movement to me long enough to get the benefits because they took maybe a week to get acclimated, then killed it.
Yeah.
And then they come back and it's like, fuck, I can't, and they can't progress.
Right.
And that assumption that I think many make with the hypertrophy work is why exercises change so frequently, because they just go batshit crazy and they don't think of how can this progress for 4, 5, 6 week period.
That's very wise. I can't agree more. There's 2 ways to approach training. One is the intellectual way, which is to realize that the reason you are training is to get a set of outcomes. Like you want to be more jacked or strong or athletic or whatever it is. And that what you're dealing with is the complex adaptive system as a human body. And you have to, like an engineer, put inputs to try to get certain outputs. That's one way to see training. Another way to see training is a psychological, almost sublimation process where, you know, things happened to me in my childhood I still haven't forgotten about. And God damn it, that's what the squat for reps is for.
Oh, yeah.
I live that shit every time. It is therapy. And I fucking love it. And I'm here to trash myself. What a lot of people will say in my area of the world is the psychological part of the training is fucking stupid. You're a child. You're not in the gym for therapy. Be a machine. Do what machines do. Input, output. Don't just bury your fucking dick in the sand. Don't fucking crush yourself with volume. Think of how many weeks do I have to progress and how hard do I have to go in week 1 so that I have room to progress in week 2, 3, and 4. And also that week 4 means I can't progress anymore. Like I've done it all. That's great. That is the best way to train. But at the end of the day, if I didn't have serious psychological issues, the fuck would I be bodybuilding for? Like every now and again, you know, it's fun to make fun of other people, just, you know, lightheartedly. So say, oh, you know, those social justice warriors and their purple hair and fucking idiots. And clearly they just got bullied in middle school. Now they think they're like somehow understand how world social justice works. In reality, you know, I'm saying this, but if I walk through like University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, tons of social justice warriors, they look at me accurately are like, that man has clear issues because what the fuck happened to his face? He sure as shit wasn't born like that. Like, what is he trying to drive at psychologically that gives him this protective shell of big muscles or whatever? There's so much truth to that. So yes, be a scientist, be a logician, be an engineer with your training. Make sure you're designing your training like it's supposed to look if you want the best results. Second priority is your psychology. It's not off the table. It's absolutely a priority. And then intelligently within each set, when it's time to go hard, you turn that fucking switch and go hard. So it's taking your need for therapy, your need to fucking trash yourself to feel like a human being, but putting it into a container that's logically leveled with water. And then so you get the best of both worlds. You get the best training outcome because at the end of the day, like, this is sweet. And also you get an ability to really fucking work.
I call that controlling your stupidity.
Nice.
Right. So it has to be there. I mean, for me, it's always going to be there. But then after I do something really stupid, then the processing has to happen. Like later that night, later that day, like sometimes it's even before, like it's a set. You're like, you know what, I'm going to fucking do. Then, okay, if I do this, then that means next week is going to have to probably be a down week. But that was supposed to be a heavier week. So I can, but only a little bit.
100%. Another thing I think a lot of guys do is they know that they're in the gym because of demons and therapy. Dope. So am I. See you at the gym. But then they do shit in the gym that is so injurious, so injury risking, so fatiguing that they're setting themselves up for getting out of the gym for a week or 2 or 3 months or their fucking life. Don't do that, man. The gym means more to you. So if it means being a bit more intelligent, ramping down a little bit, and then still coming back to train another day, you can train into your 50s, 60s, and 70s, no fucking problem. But if you want to leave it all in the gym, you know what people say, like, leave it all in the fucking gym. Like, well, hold on, what am I leaving? Like, my ability to come back to the gym later? I don't want to leave that shit. I want that shit coming out the door with me. So at some point, you have to be intelligent about saying, look, yeah, I need this for therapy, but because I need it for therapy today, tomorrow, next week, next month, I'm going to be a little bit, at least a little bit measured with how much I do. And the reality is, most of that you can control with the number of sets. One hard set isn't going to fuck you up that much. So if you really want to fucking grind, and you don't want any of this RIR nonsense, I feel you 100%. Get our app, 1 set, everything per week, and just go to failure. And then next week, stay 1 set or add another set if you feel like it, go to failure again. You can have great results like that. Not the ideal results, but if the therapy matters to you that much and every set needs to be fucking war, totally. But just don't do that many sets. Also, don't go really heavy. You can do a lot of sets of 6, sub-maximal work, 6 sets of 6, no problem if it's a few reps away from failure. You start grinding 6, 7, 8 reps close to failure. There's only so much of that you have until your body fucking disconnects, like Mr. Potato Head.
I mean, see, I would call those like a challenge set. You know, is what Meadows would call it. And in my mind, it's like, how the fuck can you do more than like 1 or 2 of those in a whole day?
People claim to.
There's no goddamn way. I mean, you're fucking puking and shit. I mean, it's all kind. I mean, after that, it's like, fuck. Then you're realistically going with like, what exactly are fucking leg extensions going to do for me right now?
Right.
That this just didn't do.
I can't really move my legs anymore.
Like, I'm gonna fucking die. Yep. You know. And then, you know, now I guess you could down-regulate it and just not be as hard for the whole time.
Some people can.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. You say, okay, I want to go all the way to failure, but I'm going to go 3 reps shy of failure, whatever that number is. And then next week, the app is going to put 5 pounds on for me or add an extra rep, and I'm going to meet that challenge. And then the next week, I'm going to meet the next challenge. Over time, you just get fucking stronger. Eventually, you'll hit failure. You have to. You're not going to get linearly stronger forever, but it guarantees that your training gets harder over time, which is really cool. You can do that. That's really intelligent. You can also just go to failure with moderate reps every set if you insist. You just have to understand you're making a conscious trade-off, optimal results, just a bit off, but the psychology is something you might like. Sometimes I've been in a lot of debates about training to failure, and a lot of them end with, well, it's just what I like to do. You know, look, that's fucking great. Just understand you have trade-offs, you know? Like, I like to go like running around naked with just a trench coat, like at the mall. My parole officer said that like, there's just going to be trade-offs to that. Say, great. Yeah. Spend a few months every year in rehab and jail, and they let me back out.
See, it's when the training to failure becomes interesting in my mind, because what do we, it's kind of like specificity. It's like, what are we really talking about? Like in the powerlifting world, they talk about, I'll use a comp lift as an example. I've said this before. Like, to me, a comp lift is you're in the meet, you know, you have to take it out, wait for a squat command, hit depth, and they're going to say rack. That is a comp lift.
Yeah.
The walk out, the squat, the command, the walk back. All right. So a triple is not a comp lift. You know, so if you're talking specificity, you're already 1 standard deviation away by doing a double or a triple. It's not the comp lifts.
Totally.
So how many degrees of separation are we allowed to have in this conversation of specificity?
Yeah.
And so where are we starting from? That's the key thing.
Sure.
Like, what's that? So the failure is kind of like that too. So the example I can make there is I can do a set to failure, just muscle fucking every rep up.
Yeah.
Or I can do one with really controlled tempo, you know, muscle, contraction, you know, full range of muscle, mind muscle. And when it starts to get hard, resist wanting to muscle fuck it. Resist wanting to put more tempo in it. Just let it fucking fail.
Yeah.
My ability to recover from that failure is totally different than hit the ammonia and just go 100% compensatory acceleration on every single rep and just hit that motherfucker. Now that failure is a different failure.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? So when these conversations happen, I always sit there and I'm like, dude, like, can you guys agree on a fucking definition?
Yeah.
First.
To me, there's only one.
And what is that?
That is the second example of doing good technique and mind-muscle connection and not starting to muscle fuck it when you get tired. Because if you ask the question of what is the purpose of doing a set to failure in which your technique breaks down completely, I have yet to come up with a cogent answer to that question that satisfies me and allows me to say, yeah, that makes sense. What is exactly the point of like just rocking back and forth on curls? Is it an emotional thing? Does it allow you to just really like feel yourself or some shit like that? Is it pure ego? Yeah, it's pure ego. That's what it is. If you want to go to failure in a way that is conducive to muscle growth and minimally fatigues you, you're just going to do just your biceps. That might even hurt more. It might be challenging to have to think of good technique while you approach failure. But while that is challenging, that is also the hallmark of an advanced lifter, is someone who, as failure gets closer and closer, their technique might even get better because they get more locked into the movement. That's the real hardcore way to train close to failure, That whole idea that you just like clip in and just fucking go. I see people do like leg press, just fucking go. Like, well, how deep do we take a pause of them? Just go. You just end up doing these little wiggle reps and stuff. Like, yeah, man, fucking handled 9 plates aside for, shut the fuck up. You know, I don't even know what handled means. You mean lifted? Because you didn't. You just had a seizure out of the fucking leg press. So I think it's always important, almost always, always, good technique first with good control, good tempo. Whatever tempo you choose, you stick to it. And then failure is in the context of that afterwards. And it's, to me, there's not a time in the gym where you're going to jettison your technique and just go. That brings you more fatigue for no extra stimulus, less stimulus actually, because all of your other muscles start to contribute. And the target muscle can get a little bit of a break. Higher increase of a probability of injury. What else? What is the plus side? No one's ever explained the plus side to me.
When I have clinics and I teach lifters how to do the accessories, I think should be trained like a bodybuilder. I've always felt that way, right? Because I just don't see the logic in muscle fucking.
Well, that's
up
what you're doing is you're building.
You're trying to build.
Why the
muscle.
fuck you do accessories?
And so the way I'll explain it to them is use when it's controlled. What they typically will do is they'll keep it controlled, but then because it says 10 or 12, they get loose to get to 10 or 12.
Sure.
And they might have actually failed at 8. You know, so I'm like, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road.
For sure.
You know, which makes no sense to me. Like, just let it. But a lot of people get locked in because it says 8, 10, 12. I got to do 12.
Right.
Like, that's just a marker. It's a, you know, it's the goal, but it's not the outcome.
You know, that's so true. I don't know if this is true, and this is very obscene, but apparently, I don't know, don't crucify me for this, but apparently there's some like sects of religion. I've heard it's Mormons. I don't know if I believe that. Or maybe like the Pennsylvania Dutch. What are they called? God damn it. Amish.
Okay.
I don't know who I'm sorry to all these groups.
Yeah.
Forget I said that. There's apparently a group of people that like
these people,
you people, they'll be in a bed together and with a significant other, and someone will rock the bed. So they're technically not having sex, but the sex is occurring so that they don't commit the sin of extramarital sex. But at the same time, someone else is pushing the bed up and down, so the sex still happens. And I'm always like, God created the whole world, right? Do you think he can't see what you're doing? He can't read your thoughts? You're trying to lie to God, who is everywhere? What are you, nuts? That kind of thing to me is similar to like saying, oh, I had 8 reps, really, but I'm going to do 10 and write 10 of my shit because I had to do this. Are you lying to your muscles? You don't think your biceps got the tension transduction message of exactly and only your bicep tension? Do you think that if you hip into it and get 10 reps, your biceps are like, oh, hey, fellas, he did 10. It wasn't 8. Go, grow more muscle. No, they're going to be like, that was 8 actual reps of tension and 2 reps of the glutes did all the work. So like, we're going to cause 8 reps of growth. And then the glutes get 2 reps of dog shit, not whatever, just fatigue basically, because it's not that hard for them to do. You can't lie to your body. You got to train a muscle. You got to expose that muscle to the tension. Put it in a position where it's not its strongest maybe, but in a position where it is leveraged to be exposed to tension. Like if you do proper bicep curls, if you sit up real tall and you stretch out and you get the bicep back here, it pulls the shit apart. I don't like how that feels. I don't like the fact that I'd rather swing the weight up, but I have to use my bicep. I don't like anything about it. It burns my bicep. It hurts. I can't use as much weight. But the thing is, because it burns my bicep and because it hurts and because the tension has to come from the bicep, it also gets all the chemical messaging that says cause growth, cause growth, cause growth. So if you want to get away from having to do the work with your chest, your biceps, your back, whatever it is, yes, you can put more reps into your fucking tracker or your RP Hypertrophy app. There's nobody reading those reps. The AI system reads them. It doesn't value you. It's 10 reps. It's going to believe you. You don't get the growth of that shit. It's like liking your own post on social media. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
But if you don't like your own post, why should somebody else like that?
That's deep. I'm stuck. Hold up. Let me like all my own posts.
Yeah. Let's take a bathroom break real quick, and we're going to come back and talk about nutritional aspects.
Perfect.
Yeah. I gotta pee. I want to let you guys know that we just had a limited edition drop on the website last week of new items that sweatshirt, flannel, t-shirts, shorts. Basically, the limited edition items are the items that directly support the Table Talk podcast. So if you go to elitefts.com/limited edition, or actually just the link in the description, you can find the limited edition items that we have now, which there's the one that I like the best is the shit suck good great, which is all emojis. The designs I always like the best, right? They're the ones that don't sell for shit, but they're the ones that I want to wear that I like the best. And there's the cigar one as well. And they're all there on the screen for you guys to be able to see. So if you go to elitefts.com/limited edition, the other thing that directly helps support the podcast that I haven't talked that much about is the Table Talk crew. The Table Talk crew is extra edition episodes that go out once a month. The content of those episodes are AMA related, question related, that come from the Table Talk Discord group, which is also part of being in the crew. When you're in the crew, there's dozens of ebooks that are in there. There's every seminar that we've ever done is put on there. There's courses that are put on there. There's series that have put on there. The original YouTube channel that we had for many years, before we migrated to the newer one, all that old content is on there. There's discussion groups for just general training, fitness, life, nutrition, basically everything that you can think of is on. So just go look at what that is, or better than that, just go to the description, click on join the crew. That helps directly support the podcast, which is how we're able to keep this thing rolling. Is brought to you by First Detachment. Are you looking for a supplement brand that truly understands hardworking athletes? Look no further than First Detachment. 1D's real world experience is what I would consider, and they consider, battle tested. I have known Justin Harris for pretty close to 2 decades. And if there's anybody that I trust with nutritional and supplement needs, it's Justin Harris. If you guys have followed me and have followed the podcast, you pretty much already know how I feel about the supplement industry. For me to get behind any brand, I have to trust the brand and I have to trust the person both. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know why. When it comes to creating formulas and putting products on the market, and there's nobody that I trust more than Justin Harris. While I love all of their products, I'd suggest that you check out the Field Rations and WTH first. Go to www.firstdetachment.com and use the code TableTalk10 to save 10% off each order. The link is in the description. Today's episode is brought to you by Element, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With Element, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drink 1 pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, Element is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single-serving packages free with any Element order. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is, if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend and Element will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinkelement.com/Table Talk. Volumetric Health is a premium telehealth platform specializing in hormone optimization and preventative medicine. Are you looking to optimize your health in and out of the gym, improve recovery, sex drive, and quality of life? Have you tried speaking to your health professional about this and have gotten the cold shoulder, stereotyped, or just told it's part of getting older? You just go to americhealth.com/Table Talk, and you can create your own lab, or you can take labs that we've had set up for them, which are based upon the same labs that I've been doing over the last 15 years. Or you can use their guided optimization. With this, they'll put you in touch with a patient care coordinator, which is actually pretty cool because you get to sit down and speak to somebody that can understand what you're looking for from hormone optimization and the preventative medicine standpoint. After that conversation, they'll determine which labs that you should and which tests you should have done, and then from there, get the labs done. They'll review those labs with you and put you in touch with one of their hormone optimization specialists that can determine which supplementation that you should use over the counter or prescription. americhealth.com/Table Talk. The discount code is Table Talk, especially in this industry. And we're back. We can keep going on hypertrophy forever, because I think that was most of what we talked about on the last podcast as well. I want to segue a bit off to that, even though nutrition does play a role. But before doing that, I want to point out that your app link is in the description. And give your little spiel on, because when does it go live?
Yeah, so May 23rd.
So soon.
Yeah. In like about a week.
Yeah.
It goes live, but it's the open paid beta, which means it is, just paid beta. But so we'll ask you for money if you want to use the app, and it's going to be like $1,000 a second.
Per exercise?
Yeah, exactly. Per rep. And then for about 3 weeks, only the people that have signed up so far over the last couple of weeks and will sign up until May 23rd, they're going to be allowed in. For about 3 weeks, we shut down any new entrants and they get directed to continue to wait. And then right around mid-June, we are going to release the open beta to everybody, not just the sign-up people. If you sign up, you also get a ton of free stuff, tons of, we're actually sending out entire books and guides and exclusive videos. So if you want the app sooner than later, also it'll be cheaper if you get it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Signing up in the next week's a really good idea. And you're signing up just to be on the list, so you don't have to pay anything. Once the app comes out May 23rd, we'll send you an email and say, hey, go download your app if you want. Pretty no risk situation. But if you miss that deadline, if you're watching this video later, if it's between roughly May 23rd and roughly June 15th, still click on the link. It'll send you to the next wait list. And then after June 15th-ish, hypothetically, we just open it up to everyone.
All right, so that gives you time to work all the bugs.
Yeah, to make sure it's a settled release.
Yeah. So what I've been using, it's been pretty solid. I haven't had any issues. But most of my work I do on my phone. So I'm using an iPhone, right? So I'll build the meso on actually the iPad was way better than my computer.
Yeah,
by the way. I didn't know
you can
that.
slide everything around and everything.
Way better.
Yeah.
Crazy better.
You can build, so this is a progressive web app. So it'll work on every single platform. It'll work on your tablet. It'll work on your laptop. It'll work on your desktop. If you build mesocycles on your desktop, it's like a dream come true. It's so fast. Because the mouse just, It's better than the fingers. I want my hands replaced with mice. I don't know if I said that wrong.
I don't think you thought that through very well, to be honest with you. Because if your hands are mice, then how are you going to rub it out?
Oh, the computer does that. Don't worry, the future's going to be great. I've already planned for this. Don't you ever just get tired of rubbing it out yourself? Couldn't a machine do this better than me, you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are machines.
You don't, are there?
I don't know. There's like a fleshlight, right? But there has to be a fleshlight that's automatic.
Yeah, because I'm not moving it around. I've done enough of that in my life. We keep going down this fucked up road. Yeah, this is a road to nowhere.
The one thing I didn't like about the app that worked out to be a little bit of a benefit is I hate my phone when I train, right?
Yeah,
I do. I hate it. So I leave it on the table, which I get more steps now.
Sure.
Because if I'm over there doing it, then I got to walk back after each exercise to kind of put the shit in there instead of doing it all after the training, which I'm not smart enough to do that. I can't remember long enough.
Oh yeah, fuck that. Neither can I.
It's like, so it's after each movement, even with the movement, it's like,
yeah, okay, sometimes after each movement, a lot of times after each set, I'll just type it in.
Yeah. So I didn't think I was going to like it at all, to be completely honest.
A lot of people don't like, a lot of people who have done a thing for a while, the last people to get an app for it. And they have their way of doing things that they like. Apps are often for people that don't do a thing often. And then you give them an app and they're like, oh, this is great. I'll use this. What we try to do with Hypertrophy app is to make it an app for people that already lift and know how to train. So there's just, as you notice, there's not a lot of fluff in there. It's like, pick your movements. Here's week 1, hit it. Choose your weight, type in your reps, hit the green check mark. You finish the set, on to the next. That's it. We could have made it way fancier. I mean, we were talking about, what is our target demographic? Are we trying to teach people how to lift weights in the app? Like if we put the app on the iTunes store, just regular people download it. We do not want that. It's like, selling someone a formula car.
Yeah, I can see that.
How do I drive this? Well, if you have to ask, don't buy a fucking formula car. So I'm glad that you thought you were going to hate it, but didn't totally hate it.
Yes.
Because then that means I think we designed it in a way that didn't have enough touch points to piss you off. I mean, imagine if like you had to scroll through like technique videos and a timer. And
I've seen that on other stuff. I've had other things, that I've used or somebody would send me, and it's like, God, no.
I don't do all this shit.
This is horrible. I'd just rather just use a notepad.
100%.
Whatever. This is just terrible.
Yep.
Or it's a PDF file, a book. And then it's like, what the fuck? Now I got to find what page I was at. It's like, no.
It's like a nightmare about school restarting.
Yeah, exactly. And with nutrition, so I can get off of this fucking topic, I can get into the nutrition, which I wanted to talk last time, is let's stay with hypertrophy, right? Because I guess strength nutrition, it's the same, right? Hypertrophy. I think nutrition is probably more important for the hypertrophy if I'm looking at the strength athlete. Yeah. Because if they go through that phase that they're supposed to go through, that they don't go through, but then when they do go through, they don't go through it effectively, they should be eating enough to actually fuel and feed and grow the muscle. Today's episode is brought to you by First Detachment. Are you looking for a supplement brand that truly understands hardworking athletes? Look no further than First Detachment. 1D's real world experience is what I would consider, and they consider, battle tested. I have known Justin Harris for pretty close to 2 decades. And if there's anybody that I trust with nutritional and supplement needs, it's Justin Harris. If you guys have followed me and have followed the podcast, you pretty much already know how I feel about the supplement industry. For me to get behind any brand, I have to trust the brand and I have to trust the person both. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know why. When it comes to creating formulas and putting products on the market, and there's nobody that I trust more than Justin Harris. While I love all of their products, I'd suggest that you check out the Field Rations and WTH first. Go to www.firstdetachment.com and use the code TableTalk10 to save 10% off each order. The link is in the description. So what are the basic benchmarks that you see people screw up there? We know the nuance. We know everybody gets tied up in all this stupid shit.
Yeah.
With the basics, grams of calories, let's start there.
Sure.
Like, where should the calories?
I think a lot of people make a mistake of just trying to search for some kind of calorie number that's the magic number. Like, I had a lot of online questions of like, excuse me, how many calories do I need to gain muscle? And it's like, first of all, you could have just Googled that. And there's like 10 free calorie calculators that tell you based on everything. The reality is you don't actually even need to do that. Because what you can do instead is to figure out how much food you're eating now. Most people will be at maintenance automatically. They just automatically eat enough food based on hunger to like roughly maintain their current weight. Whatever it is you figure out you're eating through just tracking it, super simply, you increase that amount of food by something like 250 to 500 daily calories. That creates a surplus big enough to cause you good muscle gain, not so big that it'll make you a fat mess really soon. And then you just crank away at that shit for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you measure your body weight a couple times a week. If that's not going up by half a pound to a pound a week every week, you need to eat a little bit more. Add another 250 calories in there. If it's going up faster than a pound and a half, 2 pounds a week, then you need to crank down on the calories to make it go up slow enough so that you don't get to be a gigantic fat mess. That's more or less all the calorie stuff. And if you're dieting for fat loss, it's the inverse of that. So you start out with however much you're eating, subtract 500 to 1,000 or 500 to 750 calories from that, and then just continue to eat that until your weight loss slows down enough to where you're like, I'm not losing as quick as I want to. Then you have to bump the calories down again in many cases.
What about their macros?
Yeah.
Because they say they start tracking.
Yep.
I can make it more simple. Just weigh yourself every day. If it's not going up or if it's not going down, then your calories, what you're eating is basically,
that's it.
Maintenance. But they don't know what it is.
Sure.
Right. So the adjustments, I guess if it's just eat more, they could just eat
Sure.
more. But usually that scale hasn't changed because they've tried to eat more, but don't do it consistently enough to make the changes.
Oh, the consistency is a whole other thing.
And I think the tracking can help. If
Yeah.
they don't know, at least from the jump, can help with the consistency of that. But when I would have, going way back, clients track things, it's a mess. Like, so before you started to deal, or I would deal with up or down, let's just clean this shit. Like you're at a base level, but this is Pop-Tarts. And I mean, this is bad.
Yeah.
Would you advise the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say it depends on where they're coming from. A lot of times people just don't know how to eat nutritious foods. And before you teach them macros, you have to teach them good food choices. Bodybuilders, powerlifters, people that have been involved in sport nutrition a while, they know all that stuff already. So they're looking for specific macro numbers, which of course those exist. But for a lot of folks, you have to say, okay, do you know what a lean protein source is? A type of lean meat, lean dairy, eggs, etc., fish, lean vegan shit. If they say, yeah, for sure, here's 3 sources I typically eat, you're good, move on. But if like, I think so, you're like, oh, fuck, here we go. Because they just like Pop-Tarts. They just might not know. And they're just eating all kinds of junk and just have no idea what it is. Or they're eating good stuff, but they don't know that it falls into a category. So I say, figure out some lean meats that work for you. Figure out some veggies, some fruits, and some whole grains. Figure out what healthy fat sources you want in addition to that. Give folks examples of all of those, just a few examples, and broaden their universe if they need that. And then they're like, okay, I know which typical foods to go to build meals. Because when you look at how bodybuilders eat, it's not just about the macros. There's a lot of other similarities. Typically, they build every meal around a lean meat with some kind of veggie and some kind of whole grain or some kind of grain option. And then they structure that meal over and over throughout the day with some modifications, and definitely over and over throughout the week. So one big thing that I've seen work with a lot of people is first you teach them, this is what good food is. This is what healthy, performance enhancing, muscle growing food is: lean meats, veggies, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats. And watch this, I'm going to piss off the entire people that are listening to it. Seed oils are the healthiest possible fats. This is going to go very poorly. Hilariously, seed oils are just fine and totally healthy, but that's neither here nor there. That comment will certainly get a lot of hate. So once you have people understanding what healthy food is, you can graduate them to teaching them how to make good meals out of it. So we're starting from real basics here. So first, I wouldn't even talk about calories.
Mm-hmm.
I just say, okay, you have a certain body weight. I'm going to teach you how to eat clean, essentially, how to eat healthy. Here are the 5 or 6 examples of every food group, from lean meats, veggies, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, that you need to focus on most of your intake. And then if you find another food that goes into that category, the honest answer is yes, you can eat it. Because people will be like, what about salmon? Yes. What about tilapia? Shut the fuck up. Yes. The answer is, does it look like a fucking lean meat to you remotely? Yeah. Then yes. Sometimes people like, one of my most hated things as a coach back in the day was like the one food at a time person. Client who'll text you and be like, can I have this? Like, this is not how this works. I need to teach you categories of stuff.
Yeah.
Once you get in the categories, just practice eating mostly food from that healthy options list and less food from other stuff. If you give a shit about how you look, about how jacked you are, and about if you're getting stronger or not, then when you're, okay, I know what kind of foods to choose, you're going to want to structure your meals. Probably eating 4 to 6 meals per day of a roughly even size, all of them built around a lean protein source, most of them built around a veggie source as well, most of them having a good number of whole grains in them, some of them having fruit instead, some of them have fewer carbs towards the end of the night or something, some have more in the morning, around workout, whatever it is, but you basically just get the meal structure, and these meals are roughly evenly spaced together in the day. You wake up in the morning, you have something with protein in it. Every 3 to 5 hours, you have something with protein in it. Sometimes it has carbs, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it has extra fat, sometimes it doesn't. You eat on that pattern. Once you have someone eating in that pattern, they know what their go-to protein sources are, carb sources, fat sources, etc. They know and have the habit built of eating multiple meals a day at relatively similar times. Then it becomes productive to discuss macros with them, because you've got to work around that whole Pop-Tart situation. If you just give someone a macros app and like, I just do these macros, they're going to be like, what real foods do I eat? And if they try to do macros with shitty junk foods, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, that cheeseburger just took all my daily fats away from me. How am I supposed to do now? Like, well, the real answer was don't eat cheeseburgers all the fucking time. So once you give people the habit of eating well, the meal structure of eating well, you go on and you give them the macros, specifically proteins, carbs, fats. Generally, the rule there is roughly a gram per pound of protein per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, 200 grams a day of protein. I can talk about the nuances of that recommendation until no one is interested. Anyone has questions. Then your fats are something like 0.3 to 0.5 grams per pound per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, that's something like 60 to 100 grams of fat per day is a good place to start for most people. And then the rest you fill into your daily calorie allotment based on body weight and how it's trending with carbohydrate. And that's just basically how you construct diets. You split that all up into meals. We have the whole Renaissance Diet 2.0 book RP makes that describes all of that in mind-numbing detail. And there's tons of YouTube videos about that. That's really the core of nutrition. And then that thing you said a little while back before I got ranty was consistency. And consistency is one of the most critical parts of diet, because there's that meme on the internet with it's a person's like, I had like a salad. Am I healthy yet? Have I lost weight yet? And it's like, no, you need a few salads in a row. So, so at the end of the day, consistency is what builds, or what shreds if you're into that sort of thing. And a lot of people struggle with consistency, because consistency means that you are, let's see if I can put my foot up on something. I'm a put my foot on stuff kind of guy. Consistency means that there will be times where you don't want to do some shit, but you still have to do it. There will be times when you're excited to do more, but you still have to do the same thing. For example, if you're gaining weight on a muscle gain phase, let's say after you got pretty lean, in the first few weeks, you have your bowl of cereal after training with your whey protein shake. Great choice. You may want to have the whole box, but your diet prescribes you only 2/3 of the box of cereal. You're still a little bit hungry after that meal, but unless you want to become a fat fuck, do not eat the rest. Stop when the meal is over. Wait till your next meal. On the other hand, you will get to the end of your muscle gain phase when most people quit. Week 11, 12, 13, 14, where you look at the whole box of cereal you're supposed to be eating and you're like, fuck that. I could eat 1/3 of this box, just never eat cereal again. It doesn't matter. You still eat the whole fucking box. And you drink your protein shake and you shut the fuck up about it because you said you wanted gains. And that means thick or thin, fire or ice, you got to eat your fucking meals. And it's imposing because sometimes, there's 4 meals that you have to eat in the day. You've eaten 2 of them and you're like, I don't want to eat anymore. You still have to eat the other 2 meals. Or on a fat loss diet, you're like, you finish your food and you're like, I could just keep eating and never stop. That's how I feel. That's nice. Here's your participation award for having feelings. Go to the end of the line and fuck off because you have to do what you have to do. So a lot of nutrition isn't so much the figuring out what to do. That part, some people get stumbled on. There's tons of fads and all this other stuff, carnivore and shit like that. But at the end of the day, the consistency is something that really, really hits people. And can you empower yourself to help be consistent? Oh God, yes. But that takes its own willpower effort. Meal prep, bulk meal prep. If you meal prep twice a week, put it in Tupperware. Gee, you just have to eat the meals in the Tupperware now. Is that something that's possible? Yes. Is that something that's easy? At first it's tough. Then it gets easier. There are ways to enhance that process and make it easier. For now, until robots start cooking our food for us, which hopefully will happen sooner than later, it's just some shit you're going to have to do. And fuck it, even when the robots come and cook all your meals for you, you can always be like, hey, robot, cancel my 7 p.m. meal because fuck that, I'm not hungry. Or the robot will make you your diet food and you'll be like, hey, robot, can you make me an extra enchilada? And he's going to be like, that's not on your RP diet app. And you're going to be like, God damn it, just don't tell Dr. Mike. Like, all right, great. So the consistency part's a killer. And the way you get extra jacked or extra lean is just prolonged multiphasic consistency. If you see someone on the Mr. Olympia stage that's like jacked and shredded, you can tell that for at least 5 to 10 years, probably much longer, they've been generally on average in a surplus of calories. They are uncomfortable. They're eating an amount of food that they don't even want to eat constantly. And then you can also tell, because they're super lean and super diced, that at least for the last 12 to 16 weeks, they missed out on eating the food that they wanted to eat. Wanted to eat it, but they still didn't. So one of the cool things about bodybuilding is, people say, like, you see pro bodybuilders on stage and someone will be like, dude, that's a lot of hard work and dedication right there. And of course, inevitably, some troll's going to be like, that's actually just steroids. And they're like, well, word up. Looks like you could juice up and be on the IFB pro stage in no time. And the answer is both. But steroids are, crazy for me to say, also require consistency.
Yeah.
You don't just take one pill and it happens. You take a pill every day, and then after about a week, you're having thoughts you're not comfortable with, you don't sleep at all, and you're sweating at night, and you fucking hate everyone, and you hate yourself, and you're like, nope, still got to take these stupid drugs to get this stupid result I said I was going to do. So it all comes down to consistency over time, over weeks, over months, and over years. And then people see you on a plane, and they see your big arms, and they see you ripped, and they go, hey, what kind of diet are you? What kind of diet got you like this? You just want to be like, fucking generation of dieting. That's what got me like this. But they told me it's not nice to scream at random people on the plane, so I don't do that anymore.
Probably not. With the consistency, though, I don't know how to define what I'm saying is the consistency over a period of time in anything that you're wishing to master needs to become more disciplined. The point I'm making is for the people that are listening, mistakes that I see athletes make is they jump straight on the bodybuilding diet. Chicken rice, I'm going to do this 4 times a day. It's too much. It's too big of a jump. Where just fucking eat 2 meals. If you don't have any structured meals, just start with like 3 structured meals a day.
Yeah.
Fuck whatever it is.
Yeah.
Build that habit and then stack on it. Where I think some people jump so far ahead that some can do it, but the mental discipline it takes them to do it isn't sustainable once their show, peak, goal, meet, whatever it is achieved. Then they fall right back where it's anything, right? So it's just work. Like there's a lot of days I don't want to fucking work. I have to. I own the fucking place. I have to fucking do it no matter what. You know, if I don't do the work, but fuck, and that doesn't matter what it is. And there's people that will see work you do, work I do, anybody does, and then think that's where they start.
Sure.
And like, no, man,
Sure.
it doesn't work that way.
Sure.
You know, in the one example I can say, because I see lifters do it all the time, is they need to go through a hypertrophy phase, and we already bitched about that. And then they go on chicken, rice, egg whites. All just like they just printed some fucking what Dexter Jackson's diet from Google.
Yes.
Well, and then they do that. It's like, dude, what the fuck? Like right now, you eat at the gas station for breakfast. You have McDonald's for lunch, and you're grabbing a pizza on the way home.
Yeah.
You know, maybe
there's tons of wisdom there. So a lot of times, if you demand a huge change, the stickiness of that habit is going to be really low. It's going to be tough to hang in there. You don't have the skill set for it. I would even say you might not have the desire for it yet. So when I was a younger lifter, I learned nutrition fairly early, decently well. And what I did was I was very cognizant of how much I was willing to put into my nutrition. I would eat foods that I considered to be pretty good tasting, very accessible, that had enough protein, carbs, and fats, and like were 5 meals a day and met my needs. Had a little junk here and there, had a little bullshit here and there. I never skipped on protein, and I never chronically under or way overate beyond the plan. There's a ton of flexibility in there, though. As I got more serious about sport and bodybuilding, I started to incrementally use more and more precision in my dieting because I was mature enough psychologically to handle it. I had already been so sustainable with everything else that these were just another tiny little habit change that wasn't a lot in the big picture. It didn't transform my life completely in one 6-month go. That's a tough ask. And I think it leads people down the wrong road because then they have this sort of bipolar understanding of nutrition where they go, either I'm eating like from the dumpster behind the fucking Dunkin' Donuts, essentially, or I am eating Phil Heath's exact diet for his 2014 Mr. Olympia or whatever. There's a lot of room between those two. And even within a competitive season, you should be a little bit one side versus the other. So in my off season, my mass gaining phase, I'll have 2 to 3 cheat meals a week. And what I use for my macros on some other meals can be like, oh, I'll just have like 3 protein bars instead of like chicken and rice or whatever. Way more flexible. As the pre-contest rolls forward, the deeper I get into contest prep, the cheat meals go right away. The precision of the foods increases to get specific water retention, all this other crap comes up. And I become much more meticulous. So even I don't do the same quote unquote healthy or bodybuilding diet year round. Even that changes. So when people on different parts of their journeys, when they're just starting to diet, really the idea is to get them to master the basics. Like, all right, how do I diet to lose this weight? Be like, try making your diet healthier. Here's how you do it. Just that change, they can lose 20 pounds in a few months. People take their regular soda, replace it with diet soda. They take their mostly what they eat as junk food and just try to get some fucking decent food. Like, you know, a slice of meat, some fucking potatoes, and some goddamn gravy on it. Even that's better than like, I don't know, a hot dog or some shit. So You get people to do that, and a lot of times they change for the better. And then sometimes people will do harder diets, more hardcore diets of really like, okay, just down to fish and rice and some broccoli, and that's it. Make sure not to do those for too long so that you burn out of them. Do them until you get the results that you're looking for that are realistic, leaner, whatever it is, down 15 pounds. Once you get there, reverse out back into normal foods more slowly. Monitor your body weight to make sure it doesn't skyrocket up, that it stays roughly where you left it or a little bit up. And then a few months later, when you feel like, hey, I can do another fat loss diet, I'm ready for some restriction, then you go and restrict. One of my colleagues, Dr. Melissa Davis, she's a neuroscientist and kind of our diet psychology expert at RP. One of the things she says that I think is super wise is the diet isn't forever. And that means the fat loss diet. As most people conceive of a diet, fat loss diet, same thing. The fat loss diet is 12 weeks long, let's say. You don't need to eat like this the rest of your life. What that helps you do is two things. One, it helps you gear in to the idea of eating in a very specific way. And two, it helps you avoid having to have cheat meals and off-plan meals because, like, you're not there for the long term. It's okay if you just stick to the plan. Pizza is not an extinct, like, it's not a fucking bald eagle or some shit. It's not going to fly away. It's not going to go extinct. There's always going to be pizza after the diet. And it's good for you to have some pizza after the diet is over. And if you understand that, you can crush the diet, follow the specific plan, download the RP Diet Coach app. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I got a weird cough. COVID. If you do that, you can survive, reverse out intelligently after 12 weeks, get back to more normal eating, same basic core of good, healthy foods, just with some BS layered on top, and not every meal is perfect. And then when you want to tighten up again, you again sink into the diet. But people think, hey, I'm on a diet. I'm going to cheat and have this one thing. Diet's not forever, man. You don't have to have fucking cheat meals every week.
Well, I wonder with the training that we were discussing earlier, just hypertrophy training or strength training for that matter, if they're only watching their diet during prep per se, but then and say the lifts are going back to that in the off season, they're not really paying attention here, there, whatever. Bodybuilders are going to be a little bit better, right? Because they're more cognitive of
sometimes,
this. But not all, right? That was the caveat. Not all. They're, by not having the basics covered, they're inhibiting their ability to recover from the most important training of the year, which even for the bodybuilder, the off season is the most, in my mind, the off season is the most important.
That's where you actually get better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people have started calling it the improvement season.
That's a better word.
Yeah. You're not off. You're improving.
Yeah.
Those folks. So I used to read a lot of bodybuilding magazines back when people read magazines. And I was often, there's cryptic shit in bodybuilding magazines that doesn't make sense to you, even if you lifted for a long time. If you haven't been around drugs, and if you haven't been around like the mentality of the average national level or average pro bodybuilder. And the drug stuff is obviously like, they're like, yeah, I'm trying this other food source now. This other one didn't gel. And it only took me like up until just a few years ago to where it was like, oh yeah, you're on 600 milligrams of orals a day. Of course your stomach's a fucking nuclear bomb and you have to eat only white rice because everything else makes you shit blood. Got it. But the other part that always struck out to me was there were guys that were like, yeah, I'm so pumped after this pro win. This off season is going to be the fucking shit, man. No more of the shit I used to do. I'm going to eat every meal and make every workout count. No skip workouts, no skipped meals. And I'm like, this is the standard that you've been holding yourself to? Like, you finally treat this as more than a participation sport? There's a lot of guys in pro ranks and top national level guys, just really gifted motherfuckers. And they will skip meals in the off season. They'll skip workouts. There's guys, I'm not going to say who they are, that are known for like disappearing for a few months in the off season. Good news for them. They usually come off all the gear too, which is good, but they'll just go away and they'll come back like way smaller. They don't train. They don't eat hardly, just eat whatever they want. And then they're like, oh yeah, it's time to get serious. And it's like, could have been growing for 6 months, 3 months, whatever it was. And they just weren't. So a lot of times being flexible with your dieting and saying, look, I'm still going to eat 5 meals a day on most days. Of course, I'm still going to fucking work out. What kind of person quits working out? And I'm going to make sure these meals are mostly healthy. But if I have to eat this whole meal of protein bars, or just like sometimes just like a candy bar plus a protein shake, fuck it. If I get the calories, I'm good. And a few times a week, I'll have some bullshit and it's no big deal. Then it relaxes you and allows you to have a sustainable off season. And also, like on off season, you want to be able to eat a bit more food, clearly. And at some point you won't be hungry. So if the food is tastier, if you can make it using like a good hack, I hate this nutrition hack, is you take a low fat, low calorie soup from the soup can aisle. They've got a lot of great options. And you heat up your chicken and rice and veggies and you pour the fucking soup in there, you mix it and you heat it up again. That shit is good as fuck. And you can eat all your same shit plus the extra calories way faster. Cause you know, like smashing white rice and chicken in the off season is like fucking pain that very few people understand. It is actually technically on an objective level easier at some point to do fat loss dieting than muscle gain dieting. Here's why. On a fat loss diet, it's no problem getting your meals in. All you have to do is resist the temptation to eat extra. Do nothing and you win. Can you imagine a marathon race or a powerlifting meet? So just don't do anything and you'll win. That's how fat loss dieting works. Pretty good gig. Muscle gain dieting, you have to have those 3 spoonfuls of chicken and rice in your mouth or you don't win. At some point, there's food that's all the way up to your throat and you're I'm going to throw up. And you do. And you still eat. That's fucking hard. So make it easier on yourself in the off season by making sure that you're still eating plenty of tasty foods. The core basics are there, but a bit tastier and some junk food. Train hard as fuck. You'll get fucking enormous. You'll make great gains. And then in the fat loss phase after, then it's time to clean it up and be perfect and machine-like and all that stuff. Great. But guys make 2 ends of that spectrum of mistakes. Some guys will just disappear or eat only junk, and then that doesn't work. And then some guys will try to eat the perfect clean food meal prep plan for the entire off season. And like you were saying earlier, they just burn the fuck out. Who the fuck can do that? 12 months of every single meal is chicken and tilapia and rice and pasta. Like, what the fuck? You don't have any donuts or any cupcakes the entire year? Like, no, fuck that. I'm a machine. Word up. I sure hope you're right. And the thing is, some people are machine-like. They love living like that. That's how they eat. That's how they live. Amazing. Slow clap. Most of us are not like that. Pretending you're a fucking warrior is not going to make you a warrior. Do the best of what you can. And if you want to get more serious over time with your diet, great, by all means. But you can get unbelievable gains, maybe the best gains of your life, by eating like 85% good stuff and then 15% whole bucket of fucking nonsense. Like Saturday night, trained hard all fucking week, ate well all fucking week. Is there a theoretical reason on a mass gaining phase that you shouldn't be getting Chinese food or pizza? I got all kinds of degrees in this shit. I can't think of one. Go fuck it up. It's fucking awesome. One of my friends, Trevor, you had him on the podcast for Dr. Fentner, the impossible last name. He used to read a lot of elite articles, and they had one guy, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Mark Bartley. There was like a hack. Maybe it was you. It was like get a pizza, pour olive oil in the middle of it.
Yeah, that was.
And then the taco pizza. Yeah. And I thought that was quite inspirational. And it did not stop you from gaining all the weight you needed, I guess. But it's like a fucking couple pizzas here and there, some Chinese food's not going to fucking kill you. And it'll get you jacked. And almost all the pros do that anyway. So the mentality of like, I got to be strict on my diet 24/7, 365, that's fucking just wrong. On the other hand, as pre-contest rolls around, the time for pizza is come and gone. And then you got to just eat the shit you have to eat. Which is great because as you eat mostly good stuff and some junk, eventually you get a little fluffy. You're really ready to start contest prep. And you've also like psychologically eaten so much junk, you're like kind of good with it. You know what I mean? Like if you bring like, like someone who's super horny and, like just 22 years old, like first strip club, they're like, oh my God, like how long do you want to stay here? Like forever. After about 30 minutes, like, all right, fuck out of here. Like you've had enough. After 16 weeks of eating pizza and Chinese food every weekend, someone's like, what do you think? Pizza, Chinese, Taco Bell? You're like, whatever. Let's just start contest prep. I don't even want this shit. Yeah. I have actually had situations in my own muscle gain phases where I would eat clean instead of taking a cheat meal because I was just fucking done eating. You know, like you eat so much junk food that junk food starts to look like it's fucking poison. And you're like, I don't want that in me. Eat like a Twinkie and you feel the fat slide down your throat. And you're like, oh, God. I'm not an athlete.
Yeah, I know it well.
Very well.
It was like,
one of my favorite feelings.
Yeah, well, it sucks because you still have to, somehow or another, you still have to get the calories in.
100%.
Right? Where, you know, I'd have times where I would eat ridiculous amounts of shit. Then the next day, I'm behind the ball.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, I can be behind the ball a little bit because I had like 8,000 extra calories last night. But over a period of a week, you end up being in a deficit more than not.
Yeah.
And like, fuck that. Then you wonder, it's like overtraining, you know, being berserk on one big training day, 9 challenge sets and all this other stuff.
Sure.
Did that one day just fuck the whole week?
Right. Dan, I have a question for you if this is okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a story about like your most intentional run at trying to gain weight? Like how tough did it get to eat? What were you eating? How heavy were you? Can you tell that story?
Well, it was terrible. It was it's a long process because when I never even considered it until I came to Westside, because at that point I was like 250 and I was competing in 275s, and it's like eating clean 85% of the time and cool with all that. Like I'm a 275, I'll just gain into it.
Yeah.
Like as the meat comes, you know, drugs, I'll gain a little bit as it comes. And then the last month I lose a little bit because you're peaking and the muscle kind of goes away. Well, you lose a little bit of the muscle too, because you're peaking.
Low. Yeah.
And then when I came there, Louis is like, you're 308. I'm like, fucking 308. You're kidding me. Yeah. Like I'm like 250, like maybe 260.
Yeah, but you're a tall guy, big bones.
Yeah, before a meet. So then I started increasing calories on top of what I was already eating, which is 85% good. So you just start throwing. Then it becomes miserable.
Yes.
Really soon. Like the first 10 pounds, not that big of a deal, but then it's like, fuck, this is terrible. And it was like 282, 285, right around that range. And I never wanted to be a full 308, you know, but 290 gave me enough room. I like to bloat up into the last, into the meat, right? Sure. And especially with the gear felt a little better.
Yes.
So it would be, if I could be 292, I could be like 302, 305 come day of the meet. As long as I was there the last week, I can bloat my way into the class. But that 292 from that 285 doesn't seem like a lot, but was a motherfucker.
Isn't it crazy? It's like going from a 500 bench to a 600 bench.
It's
like, just another 100 pounds. Like, no, it's impossible.
It was terrible because it was like I'm already at my threshold just to be at 285. And if I took my foot off the gas, didn't pay attention,
just slides
and then
down.
weighed in, it's like 278. Fuck. You know, then it's back in. And that's when JM kind of came in and gave me that stupid JM diet. He's like, do this, you know, eat three breakfast sandwiches from McDonald's and put mayo. Put a hash brown in between the sandwich and then mayo, eat 3 of those. And then for lunch, have Chinese food, MSG, make sure it's just loaded, eat as much as you can until you're sweating. Then at dinner, you know, eat a whole pizza and then cover it with olive oil, you know, put as much shit on there. And then this is the funnier part. Every hour on the hour, eat a Hershey bar, carry them with you. That way your blood sugar stays constantly high, but constant, right? So that way you don't have these fluctuations. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'll do it.
You did that.
Yeah. And now the fucked up part is when people see this story and I told it to Meadows, they think I did this for like a year. Right. It's like, this was like 3 weeks.
Right. You can't, there are people that do that for a year and they're on my 600-pound life TV show.
No, this was like,
to them, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah. This was to get over this speed bump.
Yeah.
And it did. And it was fucking miserable. And because and JM told me beforehand, it's like, you're going to be sitting there, and you know how he talks real soft, right? You're going to be sitting there at dinner. And he says, that pizza, man, you got to put it on your coffee table right in front of the TV. And you fucking put it, you stare at it before you eat it.
Business.
Yeah, you stare at it like it's a battle between you and that fucking pizza. And you have to eat the whole thing. And there were days I'd be sitting there and you feel that heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, fucking, there's still 3 more pieces there. And it's like, man, if I don't do this, I'm a puss. I can't not do this.
Right.
And like trying to shovel the shit down. And it worked. You know, definitely worked. But it didn't change my set point. You know,
No.
that's the only reason why I did it. Because I'm like, if I do this, I can change my set point. If I knew it was
3 weeks is not long.
I know. If I knew it was just going to bloat me, I would have taken the fucking phenobutyral longer. You know, I would have found another way,
Right.
you know, to be able to do it. But for me, that was the hardest part, because I don't know if it was my metabolism or if it was the muscle I was carrying or just not being open. Like, fats were bad, you know, really bad back then. Not being open to just fucking putting more fats on things. That would have been a game changer.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's like fucking MTC oil. I'd use that and just shit it out.
Oh, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. So that didn't do shit, you know, so all these things I tried to do weren't working. Now I would know better. Like, there's a lot of different options, but it's still a challenge.
It still sucks one way or another. The good thing is that if you gain weight slowly and you stay relatively lean, you don't have to press up against that needlessly. Like, when I was drug free, I used to gain a ton of weight because I just thought, like, same mentality, like fucking muscle, weight moves weight and shit like that. So I got up to like 270 drug free, fat as fuck, strong, but fat. And the way up there was just really difficult because, you know, like, your body's not interested in growing anymore. Your hunger signaling is like, dude, fuck you. What are you doing? I was drinking whole milk all the fucking time. I had an incident where I like had a bunch of cereal and milk and then went to sleep, and like the shit went from my esophagus down my windpipe. So I like woke up choking to death and vomited. So I woke up choking to death in my room, and then I stabilized. I was like, I coughed a bunch of stuff up, and then I was breathing and I was like, I was like, there's still something in my lungs. And then one of the breaths, I coughed, not vomited. I vomit coughed like a good cup of cereal milk with cereal in it. And then I was like, and it felt great. Yeah. And then it was 270 pounds back to work. And that reminds me of a couple other things. I would have to be very strategic about what I ate before the dynamic squat stuff, because it was fast. Right? Oh, yeah.
Basically, it's an AMRAP, right, on the minute, every minute.
Totally.
So I had to make sure whatever I ate came out fast, because I was going to puke.
You were going to do it.
I was going to puke. So it was just out the door, boom, blow it out, come back. Like oatmeal, shit like that comes out good. You know, so certain things didn't come out as good. Like a Barnyard Buster from TJ's was not good.
Oh, no.
You know, so that wasn't a good choice. The other thing was, I cannot begin to count the number of times I'd lay in bed in a quadruped position, just with my stomach hanging. You know, like, just, oh my God, just to get my stomach, the heartbeat, to stop. Yeah. And if I started in the quadruped and just nasal breathe.
Giving birth.
Yeah.
At
a certain point, I could just roll on my side and then I'd be good. But any other position just would not work. And there are a lot of things going back. I see ways around.
Yes.
Where my training substantially changed, you know, coming from, you know, Toledo to Columbus, where had I don't want to make this sound bad, had I just put on a pound or 1.5 pounds more of muscle each year for the time period that I was training the way I was training, as I was leading up into that, then it wouldn't have been that 282.
Yep.
It would have been 292, but there would have been more slab there.
Sure.
You know, to where when that training's not optimized for that, for the periods to put on, we're not talking a lot here, just a pound. Like, that's for a power lifter, a pound of muscle, 1.5 with that many years behind them. It's still a big ask, but it's a doable ask, which makes the whole weight gain bloat thing way easier if you have 6 more pounds of muscle, you know, than if you don't, because you can't force your muscle to grow the last 4 weeks.
Trying to eat at a huge surplus when your training is low volume, high intensity is really working at cross currents.
It is.
And it sucks. And also, something that you said earlier reminded me, when you're dieting and you're like super lean, I remember that one time you got ultra super lean. Remember, like, your heartbeat slows down like crazy, and between beats, even, you have this like sense of peace almost. You're like, I could just sit down in a chair and actually die of starvation. I would go very well. Like, I just feel like this just equanimity. It's just like, when you're eating to get bloated, to get massive, you feel physically fucking uncomfortable, and it doesn't feel healthy, and it does not feel good. The fucking, touch my forehead and there's like a vein. You can feel your heartbeat all the time. You feel like oily and sticky and gross. You get the moon face look. It's awful. And you're like, I know I'm supposed to be eating more. I mean, I know that eating more is bad for my health. Luckily, I'm not on gear. Wait, I also am. Am I going to fucking die from this? Ugh. It's like, it's a fighting against everything to gain weight. And just recently, I was gaining from 250 to 255 in my last off season. And I will say, for the first time in my life, I ran into sleep apnea. I was really lucky. I'd never gotten it before. And that was just too much muscle, apparently. My neck's too jacked. And I ran into sleep apnea. I was 38 years old. I'm going to be 39 here in a couple of weeks. And I was like, could I get a CPAP to take this to the next level? And my answer to myself was no. And it was strange that I answered that, because an earlier version of me, we were like, fuck it, whatever it takes. Yeah. I was like, nah, I'm not going to. I'm already at the top of the heavyweights in bodybuilding, muscle mass wise. Any more muscle that I put on, much more, is going to take me out of that, my most competitive class. I'm only 5'6", like the super heavies are all taller. And I told myself, I'm not going to go any further. So I cut off my mass gain phase and replaced it with like a much slower mass gain phase. I felt a ton better. But it was interesting because I talked to, in Vegas where I was training at the time, Dragon Slayers, all pros. I talked to a few of them, and one guy had just was gaining up to 320 for the first time. And I was like, comedically, obviously, I was like, how do you feel? He's like, oh my God, terrible. And I was like, how was your sleep? He's like, well, I just got a CPAP a few weeks ago, so it's been great. And I was like, what was it like before that? He's like, well, I did a sleep study, and I was waking up 59 times in 1 hour, apparently. Like, oh my God, you're choking to death every fucking minute. He's like, yep. And nothing about getting that far out of your comfort zone, size-wise, feels good. Do you remember how great and mobile you were when you were gaining to 300, Dave? Remember that?
Oh, yeah, that was fucking awesome.
Jumping out of your car and jumping back in. Everything blows. And then you have to ask the question of, why the hell am I doing this to myself? Hopefully there's an answer in there somewhere. I guess a lot of people ask, what motivates you as a bodybuilder or as a powerlifter? Do you ever get that? Do you ever get asked that question back?
All the time.
Do you ever get it now? What is your standard answer for this?
I don't. Yeah. I don't begin to answer it because they don't know.
Yeah.
They can't comprehend.
Sure.
Right now, we could have a conversation and you just know.
Sure.
Right. So I just gave up trying to explain something that they're not going to understand. Where if whatever their passion is, I'm probably not passionate about. So if they're passionate about piano or something like that, they're not going to be able to explain to me, what that really is. Yeah. So I just don't.
Interesting.
But then, obviously they'll judge, but I don't care, so they'll forget about it 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, because I'm not that important. No, because we're not that important to these other people that they're not going to give a fuck 10 minutes later. Totally. They just want to figure out why the fuck you do what you do. I don't know.
I think for me, a lot of times it's not even so much that it's a goal-oriented thing. It's it's a journey of experience. The idea of hitting a PR, the feel of a PR in the gym, even the hunt for a PR, there's something magical about it. The idea of getting the biggest pump of your entire life and looking in the mirror and being like, holy fuck, that is fucking magical. And after a while, you're so involved in the lifestyle of making these things happen, and those habits of training and eating are so ingrained and you like them so much. When people ask you, so what motivates you to do all this? You're like, I forgot. I just do it because I like it. It's not really they're not even an explicit goal after a while. Because you ask people I was actually, name drop alert, here comes the name drop. As credit to who it's due. I was talking to Jay Cutler at a gym in Vegas, and he knows of who I am sometimes, and I of course instantly fell to my knees and started crying when he walked up to me, the usual. And he was like, what are you training for? And I was like, oh yeah, Masters Nationals. I'm low key seeing if I have what it takes to maybe get a Masters Pro card. I don't know, probably not, blah blah. And, he said very nice things, and he was like, what about after? And I was like, well, yeah, I think I'm gonna do if I get a pro card somehow, I cry for 10 days after, it'll be a miraculous experience. I'm going to do one pro show and then I'll be out. And he looks at me and he smiles and says, no, you're not. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I told myself that for fucking years. Yeah. I was just going to do one more show, just win one more Olympia, and then I was out. And I you just keep wanting more. And I was like, fuck, I sure hope that's not true. But it's Jay Cutler telling me it's probably true. And it's just like, you just keep doing the thing that you're doing. Imagine, like hitting some kind of total in powerlifting. That's the biggest total you've wanted for a long time. What do you do after that? How many people really just quit?
Well, you have to, I have put more thought into this when I'm leading than what I'm putting out there.
Sure.
Is what I've concluded, for myself, is it's a process. It's a journey of mastery that I have more control of than other journeys that I'm on.
Yes.
So in business, it's a journey of mastery, but I only have so much realistic control because there's a lot of things outside my control that impact
the customer,
economy, there's a lot of variables. I mean, it's overwhelming, because you got to try to figure those out and figure out which ones matter and which ones don't to be able to move that. Now in the strength journey of however it is competing at the higher level or figuring out to keep training the way that I like to train now to be able to just push for something in the abyss that's out there that I can train for. I can control most of the variables, right? Most of them I can control.
Oh yeah.
Some age changes things, but I can still control those. Sure. Like I know the changes, I know what's going to happen. I know what's expected. I know how to change what my projected outcome is.
Sure.
I can't do that with anything else. I can't even do that. I've been married 30 some years, whatever. I really can't even do that in marriage either.
No, you think
right?
you can do that in marriage? Holy
so
shit.
I think it's having that ability to control a mastery process that we become kind of addicted to.
Yes.
And it can be very serving because all those skills carry over to life, business, and everything else. It can also destroy some people because it becomes their identity, and the journey isn't the journey is what they should identify with.
Yeah.
Not the pro card, the world record holder, or whatever it is. And everybody says that, and everybody's told that, but I don't think you really get it until you're through it.
Sure.
And on the other side, you kind of look back and say, oh, okay, this is what it was. Then I can also look back and see those people that are stuck in that identity. It's like, dude, it's over.
Well, I think you wanted to talk about how
aging.
this all works with aging. I think that's the perfect segue. Huh?
Yeah. So I'll shorten my version, then I'll let you expand on it because a lot of my version I actually stole from your video.
Excellent.
Because you do such a great job of explaining things. Where for years I've always said it's a weird dichotomy because as we're coming up, the main thing is as a teenager and all this stuff, train really fucking hard and don't worry about getting hurt. Just train your ass off. Bust your ass. Then at some fucked up time, it's not about that. It's really about don't get hurt and train really hard. It's the fucking opposite. It's like it's like a movie that's got a fucked up ending.
Sure.
Like everything you had to do to get where you want to go ends up being the opposite of what you need to do to be able to go to the next last step.
Yeah.
Which is crazy as fuck.
Yeah.
And then you throw in, because that's the training age. Then there's the biological age. And that's where I think people get really mixed up because the biological age still matters.
Yes, age is not just a number. Whoever said that was ridiculous.
So I'll let you just jump off from there.
Sure. So there's a pretty big difference in discussing what kind of approach works best, what you can expect out of training based on when you started. If you started at age 15 or 20 or 25, you're going to have a different journey if you continue to lift after age 40 than if you do start when you're 42. Because if you started early and you trained hard and diligently, making gains after age 40, certainly after age 45, is going to be difficult, if not impossible, if you pulled all the levers that you could before you got there. Now, there's always people in the comments section. I'm 47 and I'm making the best gains of my life. Like, word, I can probably tell you one of two things. One, you started in the last few years, or you started in your 30s at some point. Or two, you never really pushed it and trained that hard and ate right and did the pharma you need to do to get your best results, because how the fuck do you still have a window?
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of Mr. Olympia champions in bodybuilding, a lot of competitive powerlifters at the very top, and they generally fall between age 35 and 40, sometimes 42, 43, 44. Very rarely do you have people peaking lifetime in their late 40s. So just the first kind of general ideas about training for someone who starts early. When you are between the ages of, let's say, 15 and 30, that's when you should be looking to gain the predominance of your muscle mass and core general strength. That is when your trade-offs of going hard versus watching out for injury can be tilted into the direction a bit more of going hard. Now, obviously, you never want to do anything which you have to accept a high injury risk where you could have done it another way that had all the same benefits and a low injury risk. Clearly still be safe and don't do dumb shit, but you can push the envelope a bit when you're 15 to 30 years old. Between age 30 and 40, especially 35 and 40, if you've been consistent for that time, it's time for you to increase the specificity of your training and really wring the most out of that sponge that you can, making sure that you're now doing exercises that have your best stimulus to fatigue ratio, not experimenting as much with others you know aren't as good. It means that you're going to take extra time to warm up, because injury would be maybe not catastrophic, but a huge setback at this point. And because you're older and stronger and bigger and have a more of a history of wear and tear, you're more likely to get hurt than when you were younger, when you were too fucking weak to get hurt. It was like Harry Potter motherfucker, 15-year-old lifting weights. So I don't want to get hurt. Get hurt with what? 40 kilos? Get out of here. Nobody's hurting you. So at some point after age 40, between 40 and 45, if you haven't made your run at the big one, the big peak a few times, now's the time. And at that point, if you're in bodybuilding world, you prioritize getting lean over getting bigger, try to maintain your size, maybe increase it a little bit, but it's really just time to do the thing. If there was, pharmaceutical interventions you haven't done that you wanted to do, now's the time to do them. It's time to wrap it up. After age 45 or so, whether or not you have accomplished what you set out to accomplish, if you've been training your entire life, as of the year 2023, my best recommendation as a sports scientist and a human being, get out of my face, fly, is to flip the script, lose plenty of weight, make sure you're lean, continue to train with weights as a healthful thing, pick up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or marathon running, like Mark Bell's running around now, God knows what. And do not any longer pursue three things: maximum size, maximum strength, and maximum drug use. Because there are very few things more sad than a fucking beat red trend tan 49-year-old that's like, I'm going to do it, man. This is the one. You're like, you're going to die like tomorrow. And the shit doesn't work as well anymore after age 40, and for sure after 45. Stuff gets very, very difficult to improve if you've been whacking away at it for a long time. After the mid-40s and then into your 50s, it's all about training for ability and health, maintaining a lower body weight, staying lean most of the time, having a good time and enjoying life, and making sure fitness is a part of that. If you had lifetime hardcore fitness achievements to accomplish, especially in strength and size, the time for those, generally in your mid-40s, the time for lifetime all-time peaking has come to an end. And that's absolute total bullshit to fucking hear. But it's nonetheless what the research seems to show, and definitely what my own personal experience seems to illustrate. Now, there's a couple caveats to that. One is some people genetically peak later than others. Some people can get stronger into their late 40s. If you're that person, fuck, sweet. As long as you're healthy, keep going at it. Some people start a lot later than their timelines are way fudged. I mean, if you start training at age 42, you can get linearly better until you're 52 and older. You see, I'm making gains still. Like, yeah, sweet, you started late. If you were not so serious in your early years, or you quit for 5 years at a time, you can get really great gains way past your 40s because you just crank up the seriousness. And if someone's like, yeah, I've been training weights for 25 years. Okay. How? They're 46 years old. Great. What's your training like? Like, well, yeah, I didn't eat much and I trained like 2 or 3 times a week. Like, okay. Train 5 times a week. They're like, holy fucking shit. I'm the best ever. Like, yeah, no shit. Because what you call training was never really maximum full send training. Another caveat is, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but shit is going to be changing really fast here in the next about 10 years. And there are interventions on the horizon that may, and they've done this in animals, or doing it in animals now successfully, reversing parts of the aging process, sometimes the entire thing. So those of us who are still kicking it in 2023, by 2033, it may be absolutely realistic that reverse aging is successful. I have a whole other YouTube channel where I talk about this future bullshit, by the way. And then it'll change the game in a big way, because then full trend stack again, baby. Just kidding. But then that'll be a totally different discussion. And it takes, people are caught sort of in linear trends and they don't think about exponentials. And sometimes you say shit that they're like, dude, you're fucking crazy, right? What are you talking about? It used to be taken for granted merely 100 years ago that a male's productivity peaked in their 30s. Why? Because most jobs were physical jobs. When you were a 40-year-old man, your productivity went down. Your pay started to go down in your 40s. Can you imagine that shit? Like, you were over the hill in work. Nowadays, who the fuck you ever fly on a fucking, you go on an airline, who the fuck are these assholes sitting in first class? Old fucks. Where the fuck did you get all that money? He's like, oh, I run like 2 software companies. Motherfucker is 79 years old and most money ever. So shit can be really different. So the whole aging reversal thing, I think maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years, whenever it comes, hopefully sooner than later, legitimately people, especially younger people, will look back and think, man, people used to age. Isn't that crazy? Because, you know, people used to die of like colds and shit like that. Used to get a cut on your leg and die. Can you imagine somebody, you talk to a buddy like, hey, like, how's your wife? Like, we went hiking. She got a cut on her leg. She fucking died, dude. You'd be like, what? He wouldn't be like, why are you surprised? He'd be like, well, people don't die of cuts anymore. We have antibiotics. Well, now we just take it for granted that we do. Or like, you get pissed that your Wi-Fi service doesn't extend to fucking, you know, the mountains of fucking Colorado. Yeah. You're like, goddamn cell service doesn't go. What the fuck is cell service? Even 20 years ago, that wasn't even a concept. So I think shit is going to be fucking changing. So hopefully there's a massive silver lining to everything I just said of like, look, if we can reverse age, then you can just be 22 forever, or however long, you know, until robots kill us all or whatever. And then that'll be dope. But until then, understand that unless you came to the game late, age 45-ish is when before that, it's time to get your shit done at a really high-end competitive level in your chosen craft of lifting heavy shit or getting fucking enormous that you had started years and years ago. That's the way I see it. And like I said, it is very sad to see someone who has not gotten that memo, but I'm sure you've seen plenty.
No, I've seen plenty. And I think it's important to talk about because they need to think about their exit strategy.
Yes.
Right? Because 2 things in the strength world, this is bodybuilding, they downsize more frequently. It's more, they've seen role models do it.
Yes.
Downside at least.
Yes. Arnold's still not jacked and no one cares.
Yeah. Since they've seen Dorian do it, they've seen so many people do it that it's just a norm, which is a good thing. Where in the strength world, it doesn't happen, right? They just disappear, so you really don't know, or they just quit training altogether and just drink tons of beer.
Yeah, or they keep eating and drinking, and they stay the same size, or they just lose their muscle and gain fat.
Well, it was an interesting conversation I had a couple weeks ago, because we were talking about mortality. You know, the bodybuilders, because they're dropping dead, you know, sooner. And
always.
And then they're looking at powerlifters and bodybuilders. I'm like, we're only looking at a specific time period. So you're looking at like the last 5 years of these competitive careers of these people. All right. So what about the decade after?
Yeah.
Like, what's the mortality difference there?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to probably guess the strength athletes are keeling over dead at a faster rate than the bodybuilders that have downsized during that time period. So there's accumulated damage, right? That goes throughout this whole thing, accumulated habits, you know, that accumulate through this whole thing, that when we have a mortality discussion, you can't just talk about a 5-year chunk of time.
Yeah.
Or it's mortality. It's the fucking whole time period.
Yeah.
You know, you have to look at where if they know here's a plan, here's different plans. Like you can still have strength goals of 1 RMs or whatever I do, but you have to realign what that means and be okay with that, which is not, it's a hard thing. Some people can't, and that's why there's the problem. You know, so they just think there's more drugs or there's, you know, some other thing some card they haven't played. I'm like, dude, if you've been doing this your whole life since you were a teenager and you're 50 some years old now and you haven't played all your cards, you're a fucking idiot. Because you should have played them during the time when your peak was there. Because they're not going to do you a whole lot now, except probably hurt you.
Well, yeah, or they're just very dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a specific thing when you see older guys juiced to the fucking gills and big still, and you're like, "What? Where do you think this goes for you? Where does this lead exactly?" Yeah, I've had, I've had a few folks that I've coached before, and one gentleman is a great guy, but he was like, "Yeah, man, I just like," and he weighed like, 170 or so. And he's like in his early 60s. And I was like, "What's your goal?" He's like, "I just want to be fucking enormous." It was tough for me to write that email of like, that is both an impossible goal and the degree to which it is possible, it is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want to go to the moon, but let me unassisted climb this like satellite tower that's 1,000 feet tall in gale force winds instead. Like, first of all, that does not get you to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, you're going to slip and fall and fucking die 500 feet. So there's a certain level of like reality that has to hit. And then like we had a productive conversation, but one of the things is like, it was like, well, I see all these guys, they're fucking jacked, and it's like 30 years younger than you, man. And it was like this, it's like uncomfortable moment because he was like, fuck. Like someone has to tell you, like, dude, like it's like, in the action movies where the beginning of the movie, they kidnap like the main character's wife or whatever, and he's firing shots, but they're already gone. Like his buddy has to come and like lower the gun for him. Like the bullets aren't going to hit. Like we got to rethink this.
Yeah.
So it's a tough conversation to have. Then at that point, I think sometimes you get into people's demons because they really needed to get big or stay big.
Well,
what do you think about the stay big thing? Do you run into that? Like guys who were big and strong, and it's not that they want to do better. They just do not like to be a small person. They don't fit into that body.
And those conversations, if they proceed forward productively, I'm trying to get them to tell me exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Right. Getting jacked, getting big for what? Like, let's go for tell me why.
Yeah.
Right. Because if we can get that, then there may be a different answer.
Yeah.
To getting there.
Sure.
But a lot of times with that, if they've been around for a long time, doing it for a long time, they can't tell you what it is.
Sure.
Because
they've never examined it themselves, you think?
No, because it's always been about getting big, getting strong, getting jacked, or, lifting more weight.
Because it felt right.
Yeah, like, why are you lifting more weight?
Yeah.
Like, what's the drive? Because you're not getting up every morning and having this internal drive that you're willing to actually die just because you want to lift more weight. And that drive they've had since they were 20, 30, whatever it is.
Sure.
There's something else there.
Sure.
Like, why is that? Now, if you can get to that, whatever it is, then you can get them back on, okay, this is a journey that you're on. It's not about the size being huge or the weight. So how do we keep you on this journey to be able to do what you want to do? Maybe it is, when you're 55, being able to bench press your body weight for 10.
Sure.
Which, we all, like, I used to joke around at that, right? It's not fucking very easy for somebody that's been through the weeds, to be able to do that, because it could hurt like a motherfucker. You got to get range of motion back. There's a lot of shit that has to go into that.
Yeah.
But there's the shiny thing. Here's the path. Here's how I got to lay out the path to get to the shiny thing. I can't do it in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I have to think strategically.
Yeah.
Like I got to put muscle on, or at least keep some muscle conditioning. I need the muscle conditioning. I don't know if I'm going to put muscle on, right? I need the muscle conditioning to be able to do what I want to do, to be able to move there. And it's not going to happen soon. And it's going to take 16, 18, whatever it is. That's like a meet. It's like a show. It's familiar territory.
Totally.
But a different shiny thing.
Yeah.
It's accomplishing the same mental.
Yeah. The process to get to a goal and have mastery.
Yeah.
You can have different goals.
And I think you can have that forever. You know, as you mentioned with Mark, maybe it is the marathon, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The processing is still the same.
Yes.
Here's this thing. I'm not ready to do this thing. So I need to get ready to actually do the thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
The phasic structure.
Yes.
You know, I need this off season to be able to build the, you know, to be able to absorb the force that it's going to take to be able to do this. Then when I accomplish the thing, I'm going to take a break, like quote unquote off season. And then maybe I'm going to do that again.
Or another thing.
Or another thing.
That is very wise. That is excellent advice. I would add a couple more things in there.
Yeah.
I think that another way to state what you're saying is like people just need a challenge. If you change the nature of the challenge, there's always more challenge ahead. Just different challenge can be a really good. I think one good challenge for people who used to lift and be strong is to start doing incrementally more cardiovascular stuff. Runs or cycling or swimming or even elliptical, get into amazing cardio shape. First of all, that increases your longevity. Second of all, it makes you feel fucking amazing. Third of all, you get to eat a bunch of food and still be super lean and light and healthy. And also, it hurts more and it's just objectively more difficult than lifting weights. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Cardio is fucking harder. Like what marathon runners do is harder.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you. You lift a 1,000-pound stone. Great. Run 26 miles, motherfucker. Like anything that takes a second is not that fucking hard to do. So challenge, and I would say cardio, the vascular stuff is a great challenge there. Obviously still lift, but focus more on the cardio. And the other thing is because those systems are entirely untrained, mostly in a lifter, you can make objective, not goal specific, total global progress for like 10 years or more. It's 2023. That might take you right into the fucking biotech revolution. And then, you know, fucking
Then
just
you're
build
set.
the body. Yeah, then you're fucking set. You know, as long as you nod to the robot master as you leave your house. He's in charge now. The other thing I think is good for people who used to be jacked and are a little bit on the older side to be able to pursue that anymore is combat sport. Because some of us, dare I say even myself, it may be important for us to, when we're out in public, to be able to competently feel safe and be able to defend ourselves. Even if it's just an ego bullshit, everyone has guns anyway, and who gives a shit? I'm not trying to start fights at fucking Kroger.
Yeah.
But the ability to just know in your own hands, like if really shit came down to some primal shit, I got a baller knee bar I can fuck anyone up with. It's short of world champions, and then great, they just beat me up in a Kroger. So a lot of people have really awesome experiences switching to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu after their powerlifting bodybuilding career has come to an end. They slim down, their cardio is better, and they're fast, and they're strong, and they're dangerous, and you can get better at that for 10, 15 plus years, even into your 50s and 60s. Dude, I've rolled with guys in their 60s, nuked my dumb ass. I was a blue belt. I was 250 pounds. I was juiced up. I was strong. I was winning competitions. 60-year-old walks through me like I'm not even there. I'm a fucking old man. What the fuck is this? I'm 32 years old. Nope, not good enough. So that kind of ability to master the physical is really awesome. Because like, yeah, running and cardio is sweet, but you don't, damn it, it doesn't have that manliness component. Not as much, you know, like I want to be a fucking man. Like I see an offensive lineman like that, like a fucking monster. You get good enough at combat sport, which can be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It can be striking. Like there's Muay Thai classes every fucking metro area. You get to be a baller striker. Dude, you don't want to fight a fucking 60-year-old who knows Muay Thai at a high level. He's going to fuck you up. One leg kick and you're going to be on the ground bleeding out of your face, crying. You can empower yourself like crazy switching over to combat sport, and you don't have to be the biggest, strongest guy in the room anymore. That can be a great switch. I plan on making. I still train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all the time. I have a brown belt in it, and we're going to be retiring here in the next few years from bodybuilding for sure. It's like after age 42, I'm just not interested in this shit anymore, pro card or not, whatever. And I'm 100% full send. The plan is just full-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to become like dangerous. I can do that. well into my 50s, no problem. So just some alternatives for folks listening to consider. Like, you don't have to give up getting good at shit. You don't have to give up getting awesome hardcore training. You don't have to give up getting better than you ever been. And you don't even have to give up being a fucking dangerous motherfucker. And it's cool to be able to know how to fight, because then people can't tell. Like, you and I walk into a fucking gas station, everyone's like, yeah, okay, I won't fuck with that guy. But if I really have an attitude, I want to fuck with that guy because he's big and I want to see how it works. You know, like, you can't really ever tell who has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's usually some fucking, like, my jiu-jitsu coach who walks through me like I'm not even there, weighs 150 pound, glasses wearing hipster nerd motherfucker. I'm wearing his t-shirt right now. Josh Vogel. And I mean, he plays with me, and I can beat up almost everyone, and he walks to me like I'm not even there. You would never in a million years think this is a dangerous guy. He goes into a gas station with his hoodie on. You're just like, that's like some kid who's maybe in his 40s, but maybe he's 13 years old. I can't tell. It's awesome to be a ghost like that. If someone starts that shit, you're going to finish that shit. And it, you know, not to give up too much, but this is all water under the bridge. But after he was a great competitor in his own right and a really just awesome black belt, he lives in Philadelphia. So somebody did start a fight with him. And what he told me about it was he quickly resolved the situation very quickly. And he told me, he was like, man, like, this guy just was no good at fighting. And I was like, who the fuck, he doesn't train. He's just some guy. Started shit with the absolute, because you thought, oh, this hipster fuck, I'm going to fuck him up. It did not go his way. But it's like, it's an awesome thing to be able to have fucking power and just show it, like walk around with a string of tank at a gas station ready, right? And then I had to. And then people are like, damn, like, it's cool to be able to like just show up and have that physicality recognized everywhere you go. It's a baller feeling. It's great. I'm kind of tired of that feeling, because I kind of like tired of being the center of attention everywhere. And like, you know, hey, I showed up with a tank top today, so I'm clearly a hypocrite. But then it's cool to be able to be low key about this shit. And if you do striking, combat sport, if you do jiu-jitsu, you can be a fucking killer and nobody knows. People just look at your ears, but only the ones that know what they're looking for. You know, the wrestling ear or whatever. Yeah. And they're like, fuck that guy. I'm not starting shit with him. Everyone else doesn't know. It's a cool way to be. And it means you can still have that manhood warrior shit in you. Because when I say, hey, after age 45, you got to stop trying to get big and strong. Dave, tell me that doesn't sound like giving up. It does. Like, so you drop in the sword. Well, just pick up a different shaped sword. Yeah. And now you're a different kind of warrior. And objectively much better at fighting people, by the way, because powerlifters think they're the shit, but like, dude, you're going to gas out in 3 fucking seconds. Right?
Yeah, you're fucked. You're fucked in no time.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody that doesn't know, that's an idiot.
For sure.
Right? I bounced for years when I was at my heaviest, and it was, you're fucked.
Okay, stop moving around.
You resolve it fast or you're done. It's very simple. With, I wonder though, and this taps a little bit on your other channel, which is, I tried to look here to see if I could read defining progress. Is that what the other?
Making progress.
Making progress, right? Because I've seen almost all the videos.
Oh,
the first two.
Thank you.
The first two are excellent.
Thank you.
I think everybody should watch the first two.
One was demonetized for a reason YouTube won't tell us. I swear.
That's just defining happiness, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, figuring out what the meaning of your life is. It was maybe we'll re-release it or something, but it's going to be hard to find, and you'll have to have an age restriction thing. But
so it was the first one. So the very, very first one's not there anymore?
It's there.
Okay.
But you're going to have to sign in, otherwise you can't watch it.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was nothing in there.
Nothing. And the way the YouTube policy works is you ask them and they say, okay, we'll review it. And they'll say, no, it's rejected. And they don't tell you why. But soon the YouTube people said, like, within the next year, their goal is to flag exactly why your video was demonetized, exactly at the timestamp it was, with an explanation. Is the AI is going to be able to tell you, like, this is why. Yeah. Really curious as to why.
Well, with the one thing that's, we've spoke a little bit about the medical advancements, and hell, even chat GPT for that instance. The one thing, capitalism's great, right? Because it creates competition, which should expedite progress. But at the same time, I think of the iPhone and the iPod. You know, remember it started with like 8 gig. And you know damn well they could have done 128 gig, but they did 8 because they want to be able to sell all the 8 gigs until that no longer becomes marketable. Then they go to the next. Yeah. So they basically hold back progress to be able to maximize profit over a longer period of time. Because they can't just dump the best hip replacement that's ever made right into the market right now. It would make sense, but from a business sense, most people are gonna be like, let's get one that's 20% better. And then another one that's 40% better. And then the competition's not gonna make one that's 100% better. Let's make it 15% better just so we have the competitive advantage. Just over a period of time, this is kind of how I've seen the market work on a I don't want to say macro because it's not, because it's businesses, you know, but there's still big fucking businesses that are controlling all this. So I wonder, just conversational sake, how much that will stifle the growth. Because say that when this AI starts to become more accessible, like it's $20 a month now, whatever it's going to be.
Pretty fucking accessible.
Yeah, which is very accessible, right? And like I said, I use the shit out of it, you know, and I believe, and I think you stated this in the last video, this is like the internet starting.
Yes, except more important.
Yeah, like I very well could have just kept putting ads in Powerlifting USA.
Yes.
And never gone online.
100%.
And not be a business at all.
Right.
That'd just be stupid as fuck, right? To not be able to see that. But they're going to want to keep making the $20 a month. There's still a business on the other side.
Sure.
So somebody, you see what I'm saying? So I wonder how, and nobody knows the answer to this. Time will tell. But I think that's going to be slow the progress unless regulation gets put in there, which I don't think will. I mean,
so regulation is only able to slow progress. There's almost no regulation you can write that makes progress faster. There is definitely a situation where businesses with less competition are not as inclined to make progress. There's another situation in which large businesses have to report to shareholders and they have to report to their executive committee and their board. And a lot of times people are in it to make guaranteed good money versus take big risks to make mondo psycho money, but maybe also fail. And that's why you get a staleness effect from big businesses. That's one of the reasons why Google was not first to market with really powerful GPTs. OpenAI was, because Google had very powerful GPTs in testing, and from what I understand, their approval boards were like, oh, it's a little risky. We don't want to be the first people to make a GPT that says crazy racist shit by accident and our stock price drops. OpenAI, they didn't give a fuck because they're new on the block. Like, fuck it, put it out. So as long as there's a lot of competition, even as long as there's just a little bit of competition, it's very hard to rest on your laurels in business because other people will come up and either make your life very difficult or make you not have a job anymore and you have to go looking for other work. As long as our environment globally is competitive, relatively, and free with minimum regulation, intelligent regulation that doesn't stifle competition and stifle innovation, innovation will continue for really one fundamental reason. And here's this. People don't have to be super smart. They just have to buy the things they like. And if you make technology that solves problems better, people just fucking buy it. An iPhone, I don't need a fucking advertising mechanism. I don't need diddly dick. I need to look at an iPhone and be like, whoa, it does all that shit and it looks so pretty. I want one. I want one. And if you're not making something that looks like an iPhone, I don't want to buy it from you. Do you remember the company Nokia? Where the fuck is Nokia?
Yeah.
Fucking nowhere. How? They just didn't make what looked like an iPhone or what acted like an iPhone. And now the iPhone is the new standard. And yes, they can make an iPhone for much more money that will outperform everything. Can they make it at scale? Can they mass produce it? Probably not. If they can, they're going to try because there's another incentive. There's totally incentive of resting on your laurels, but there's another incentive in business. And over time, businesses get better in general and they start to do this. It is the idea of putting out products so insanely beyond comprehension that they crush the competition out of existence for years.
Yeah.
Like when they came out with the iPhone, bro, can you imagine that day for other cell phone company executive? You'd be like, well, fellas, don't know how the fuck they did that. And everyone loves it and no one's going to change. And they have an ecosystem that's been running for a while. Now, I will say, I got to go here in a sec.
Yeah.
But I got one more thing. The era of the cell phone is coming to an end. Probably in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe sooner. The era of potentially glasses, augmented reality, maybe some other paradigm is coming. So Apple's foothold on the cell phone market and what other companies are in, there could be a big switch. And there could be some startups that make the first really awesome headset that interacts with you and all that stuff. Maybe it's Apple because they have one in testing that I've heard is blowing people's fucking minds.
Yeah.
That kind of paradigm shift allows other competitors to scoot in. Because what the fuck is OpenAI? Google 3 years ago was a fucking monster. It was untouchable. OpenAI is fucking with Google hard. And now Microsoft has shares in OpenAI. And Microsoft, because like we used to Microsoft, Bill Gates, they peaked in the 90s or whatever. They're back. And they're fucking stronger. And Google's shaking. That's the kind of competition that's got Google right now. The Google's released like 10 products in the last 10 weeks, and they're all unbelievable. Why? Because they're like gasping for air. That kind of competition, which is fucking as American as apple pie, goddammit.
Yeah.
That's what's my big bet on progress will continue exponentially, as it has been already.
Yes.
There's no exception.
No, it is 100%.
It's hard to believe, but greed, the best kind of greed for more, for better, for progress, god damn it, that drives people to do crazy shit.
Yes.
And I'm betting on that.
I do as well. I mean, either way, it's here.
Yeah.
Right. And it's then I'm almost hesitant, like, because you don't want people to know, but you do.
Yeah.
Right. Because I want to use it as an advantage for as long as I can, because the number of people,
ChatGPT.
the number of people you tell about it and they'll be like, they're either pissed off, upset, whatever
Totally.
it is, or they don't get it, or it's, this is going to go away. I'm like, yeah, they said the same thing about the fucking internet. You know, this
Very famous, very smart people said that about the internet.
Yeah,
They were very wrong.
keep thinking that.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, if you're not figuring out how to embrace it in some aspect, you're fucked.
Yep.
You know, it's simple as that. I guess that's a good way to end the podcast, right?
There you go.
Fuck everybody's world all up and say that it's bad.
AI is coming. Bow to your robot.
Well,
masters.
here will be the other thing, because right, if you fast forward really fast, right? So you got voice technology, you got the AI, you got all this other stuff, and then you have the robots, and you got sex dolls that almost feel like real people.
Yes,
and now you get a sex doll that can actually talk to you and have conversations with you. It has a personality that becomes your best friend, and then it becomes a part of society, and then can they vote? Like, will we have a conversation in 20 years where we'll be like, what's a human?
Yeah.
Are they going to redefine what a human is?
Yeah.
So the sex doll, the sex bot.
My sex bot's already human, goddammit. That's all I want to say.
You see what I'm saying? So can they vote? Like, now we're getting into some weird ass,
I love it.
conspiracy, stupid ass shit. But it's fucking kind of going.
It's coming. Like my sex doll said that earlier. You're coming. She tells me when I'm coming.
Well,
It's not a she. I've said too much.
Yeah, obviously. So all this aside, your YouTube page, Renaissance Periodization, correctly, and then the Making Progress page.
Yep. Mike Israetel, Making Progress. Just Google my name and shit'll come up.
Exactly. Then the Instagram, but just Google his name. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. This is always a great time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Any parting thoughts or anything that you want to?
RP Hypertrophy app, get on the list. May 23rd, it closes off for a few weeks. Get on the list now. You can go to my Instagram. You can just go to RP. You can go to the YouTube. There's every one of our YouTube videos. The first link in the description is get the early access. It gets you a big discount on the initial price. It gets you a bunch of other free goodies. Give that a look, and hopefully you like the app.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and we're done.
WPO championships back in the day and going to a weightlifting meet back in the day. Weightlifting, you got your butler there. It's a golf clap. It's really quiet. Everyone's got perfect technique. This is boring as fuck. But after that boredom, then you grind these motherfuckers and you say, okay, now that you know what good technique is, and now that in your fucking soul, it's your pride to get every rep with good technique, no matter what, I'm going to offer you another challenge.